Chapter 84. Surprise, it came so suddenly. Dongbu Shuang was so excited that his head started to heat up and his blood started to boil. He had been trapped in the black wind abyss for 6 whole years and had always been looking forward to becoming a transcendent. However, in his heart, Dongbu Shuang was prepared to spend 20 or even 50 years to become a transcendent. But the truth was, he had become a transcendent in just 6 years. I've become a transcendent, I can go back. I can go home. Dongbu Shuang's mind was filled with scenes of many people. The outside world, his brother Qingshi, his parents, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong, the servants and soldiers in the castle, the mage by Yuanji, even Xian from the Dragon Mountain Manor in Jingqiu. After being alone for so long, Dongbu Shuang longed for the outside world. Once I become a transcendent, I can easily save my parents. Dongbu Shuang was so excited that tears started to form in his eyes. He then grinned and took a deep breath. Calm down, calm down. Rice needs to be eaten one bite at a time. Let's first completely transform my Do Qi into a transcendent Do Qi. Within the Dantian's Qi Sea, the surface of the round Dantian that was emitting rays of light was constantly glowing and condensing into more and more mist. This faint red flame mist was becoming more and more dense. The first strand of transcendent Do Qi was the most difficult to form, and the process would become faster and faster. A large amount of fiery red mist quickly pervaded the entire Dantian's Qi Sea. Ka. That round lump of solid Dan gradually began to crack. It was formed from the solidification of legend rank Do Qi. As it gradually cracked, the legend rank Do Qi was being swallowed by the transcendent Do Qi, transforming it into transcendent Do Qi. This process lasted for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Within the Dantian's Qi Sea, not a single strand of legend-level Do Qi was left. All that was left was this faint red flame mist. The power of the heaven and earth continuously flowed into his body. The transcendent Do Qi was directly absorbed, and the power of the heaven and earth was continuously transformed into transcendent Do Qi. Until the Dantian's Qi Sea was filled to the brim, Dongbu Shuang immediately stopped. Now my Do Qi has already transcended. Dongbu Shuang's eyes were filled with anticipation. Now it's time for my body to transcend. Traces of transcendent Do Qi began to seep into his bones, skin, and muscles. In fact, when he was still a mortal, he would also use Do Qi to improve his body, so Dongbu Shuang was very familiar with it. However, the changes caused by transcendent Do Qi were more obvious and exaggerated. His skin and muscles were absorbing the transcendent battle qi, and were quietly changing, turning into transcendence. His skin and fascia had also become tougher and more elastic, and there was even a qualitative change inside. The bone marrow within the bones also began to change, and the blood produced by the bone marrow naturally continuously evolved. The blood flowed through the entire body, through the internal organs, and even through the brain, causing the weaker internal organs and the weakest brain to silently change. The infiltration of his own extraordinary qi was the safest way to transform the body. Everything was natural. For those pseudo-transcendent beings who borrowed external forces to forcefully modify their bodies, they were gambling with their lives. Even betting on this chance would require them to pay a hefty price. To them it was worth it. After all, many legend rankers were already over 100 years old, and were nearing the end of their lifespans. Even if they didn't risk it, they would still die of old age. So it was better to risk it all. If they succeeded, their lifespan would immediately increase exponentially. My muscles, bones, skin, and muscles have all transcended. Now it's my internal organs and brain. Dongbu Shuang thought to himself. After going through the influence of the blood, his internal organs and brain had already undergone some transformations. At this moment, it was much easier for him to withstand the transcendent Do Qi. Under the direct infiltration of the transcendent Do Qi, his internal organs and brain were rapidly being absorbed and transformed. The minute substances produced by his internal organs flowed through his brain, causing his brain to continue transforming. After more than 2 hours, his internal organs had completely transformed. At this moment, Dongbu Shuang's transcendent Do Qi finally seeped into his brain. Currently, his brain had already undergone several small transformations, and it was very safe for it to withstand the transcendent Do Qi. Dongbu Shuang could feel his brain rumbling. During the transformation of his brain was burning hot, and even his ears were ringing. However, he was still able to maintain his calm. Gradually, the rumbling and burning hot feeling subsided, and what replaced it was an unprecedented clarity in his mind. Even his thinking speed had greatly increased. Furthermore, his eyes, nose, and ears had undergone some astonishing changes. His vision had greatly improved, and his vision was now able to clearly see a small earthworm 100 miles away. It was inconceivable. This was what it meant to be a transcendent. What a strange feeling. Dongbo Shuiying looked at his surroundings. The originally desolate and desolate hall had suddenly become filled with colors, and the world had become incomparably beautiful. Transcendent. Dongbo Shuiying stretched out his hand, and a dagger appeared in his hand. He then stabbed it towards his arm. Hua! The dagger sliced through his arm, but his arm was like air, completely unharmed. It was as though the two of them were in different worlds. The dagger had clearly sliced through his arm, yet his arm was not affected in the slightest. Mortal substances and transcendent substances are completely different now. Dongbo Shuiying exclaimed, "My body has completely transcended. Only transcendent substances are able to harm my body." That was why, no matter how many mortals there were, it was meaningless against transcendence. It was because they were unable to harm transcendence. Even the weakest pseudo-transcendents, like the top 50 legend rankers in the Dragon Mountain book, would need to use a weapon forged from a transcendent material. Or the edge of the weapon would be covered with a layer of transcendent material. Only then would they be able to harm or even kill a pseudo-transcendent. However, if a pseudo-transcendent was focused on escaping, it would be very hard to kill them. My body should be able to transform. Dongbo Shuiying's body started to transform. Gu, his body instantly turned soft, and very quickly, it turned into a pool of liquid. Following which, the liquid condensed into a flowing liquid sphere. Master. The Golden Ape and Golden Rock, who were far away, were shocked to discover that their master had turned into a liquid sphere. Master has become a transcendent? The liquid sphere was constantly changing. Sometimes it would turn into a cube, sometimes it would turn into a blade, sometimes it would turn into a spear. After which, it would completely disintegrate into countless particles. These countless particles were the most minute state that a transcendent body could disintegrate into. Finally, he returned to his original human form. A transcendent body is truly mystical. Dongbo Shuiying was extremely shocked. However, in a life and death battle, it was still better to maintain his human form. His other forms were much weaker in terms of defense and combat power. Flight. Dongbo Shuiying's body instantly turned into a flame that looked like a shooting star. In an instant it circled around the hall at high speed. Following which, it started to fly even more ferociously. Circle after circle, like a ray of light, countless flame-like halos appeared in the hall. After flying to its heart's content for a while, the flame descended and turned into Dongbo Shuiying. Again turned into water. Dongbo Shuiying's body instantly turned into a stream of water. The stream of water continued to fly at high speed in the hall. It even turned into an S shape and flew freely for a while before stopping. How satisfying! Dongbo Shuiying revealed a joyful expression. Transcendence could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground by borrowing the power of heaven and earth. If one was able to step into the transcendent realm with only the realm of the unity of heaven and man, the transcendent body would turn into countless particles and attach themselves to the power of heaven and earth. With the help of the power of heaven and earth, the particles would be able to fly at high speed. Therefore, the flying speed of transcendence was extremely shocking. Flying in the air was the easiest. Traveling underground and in places like seawater would be obstructed, and the speed would be much slower. And if one reached the realm of myriad creations, one's body particles could be attached to the flames of heaven and earth, or the water of heaven and earth, and their speed would be even faster and more powerful. Moreover, different profound mysteries of all creations brought about different flying effects. For example, mastering the profound mysteries of the earth and attaching his power to the power of the earth would allow him to travel through the earth at an extremely fast speed. Attached to the flow of water, it could fly extremely fast in the sea and rivers. Experts who had mastered other profound mysteries would fly much slower. Some who had mastered the profound mysteries of space could even teleport. Of course, it was extremely difficult to master the profound mysteries of space. After landing, Dongbu Shuang felt extremely carefree. The feeling of flying in the sky and burrowing into the ground is truly exhilarating. I feel free and unrestrained. Previously, I was a mortal and was unable to look at some of the places in the Black Wind Deity Palace recorded by Senior Lei Zhan. Now I should go take a look and broaden my horizons. After that, it's time to go home. Dongbu Shuang was filled with joy. When Dongbu Shuang landed on the ground, the golden ape and golden rock came over and said in unison, "Congratulations, Master, for becoming a transcendent." Chapter 85. Haha. It's just that my clothes are a little troublesome when I fly. Dongbu Shuang was in a good mood. After flying, his clothes were instantly kept into his storage bracelet. The storage bracelet left behind by Senior Lei Zhan was also a Transcendent Saint low-grade item. As a transcendent item, it could also turn into particles. However, particle forms were not suitable for battle. Without any armor or any other protective items, it would be easy for one to suffer when encountering an opponent of the same level. Human form was the strongest form in battle. Master, when you join a transcendent organization, you will be bestowed with some basic transcendent items, the golden ape said. And Dongbu Shuang nodded his head. Over the past 6 years, he had interacted with these two transcendent refiner organisms and talked about many things regarding transcendence. For example, some transcendent organizations: Sorcerer God Palace, Demonic Faction, Temple of the Earth God, Bloodshed Tavern. Dongbu Shuang had some understanding of them. Of course, the monkey and bird were only refiner organisms, so their understanding was only on the surface. Let's go and take a look at the world entrance. Dongbu Shuang smiled. The world entrance is over there. The golden ape and the golden rock helped to guide the way. Because of the map, Dongbu Shuang already knew the location of the world entrance. On a seemingly ordinary crystal wall in the hall, Dongbu Shuang stretched out his right hand. Instantly, a blazing red aura flew out from his palm and enveloped the wall. Following that, the wall changed, revealing an ancient door that was 100 meters tall. At the same time, a ripple was transmitted from the door, directly into Dongbu Shuang's mind. Black Wind. On the other side of this door is a large-scale transcendent world. Those who have not reached the Saint Realm are not allowed to enter. The ripple transmitted a map and some notes. The map was the world behind this door. As expected of a large-scale world, there are actually demigods. Dongbu Shuang was a little fearful after understanding the annotations on the map. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, before the master of the Black Wind Deity Palace died, there was a demigod in the large-scale world. The master of the Black Wind Deity Palace was too powerful back then, and that demigod was so frightened that he went into hiding. As for now, that demigod must have died of old age, but it was likely that another demigod would be born. This kind of world was extremely dangerous, but it was also an astonishing treasure trove. Right now my strength is too weak. If I enter, I'll just be sending myself to death. Dongbu Shuang shook his head. After saying that, he turned around and left. In this underground hall, there was another main door, but it required extraordinary power to open. Rumble. Dongbu Shuang's transcendent Do Qi seeped into the door and activated the mechanism. Instantly, a huge door appeared on the smooth crystal wall. The door rose with a rumble, revealing a series of green stairs behind it. Back then, Old Master had only swept through a small area around this area. The golden ape said helplessly. He only swept through some of the more remote areas near this underground hall. The truly important areas are guarded by protectors. There's no way to advance any further. Senior Lei Zhan, what's your harvest after sweeping through this place? Dongbu Shuang asked. These are all items that the master of the Black Wind Deity Palace casually placed here. However, to Old Master it can be considered as a huge profit. The ape said. The layout of the deity palace was extremely complicated. Many places were obviously used by the master of the deity palace for his experiments. Of course, some of the valuable items were gone. It was likely that Elder Lei Zhan had taken them away. There's no way to advance any further. The golden ape said. It's because of these two. Dongbu Shuang pointed to the front. There were two statues that looked like lions on both sides of the wide passageway. Just the two of them. The golden rock rarely spoke. Its eyes were cold and calm. Both of them are at the peak of the saint rank. Old Master was unable to break through their obstruction. Peak of the Saint rank? Dongbu Shuiying was speechless. How extravagant. Refiner organisms were different from humans. Humans would die of old age. However, refiner organisms were truly immortal. Therefore, refiner organisms could be passed down to their descendants. Take Lei Zhen for example. As an elder of the Sea Deity Palace and a Peak of the Saint rank expert, he only left behind 2 Sky Realm initial phase refiner organisms. Of course, this was because Lei Zhen had sold off many of his treasures for his closed-door cultivation. However, at Lei Zhen's level, it was very difficult to obtain a refiner organism with the strength of a Saint rank. 2 Peak of the Saint rank refiner organisms were casually placed in the palace. Dongbu Shuiying recalled the black armored soldier that he had killed before. That black armored soldier was condensed from black fog and wasn't a refiner organism. Old Master once said that the master of the Black Wind Deity Palace was an extremely terrifying demigod mage. Even until now, no transcendents have been able to break through the array of the Black Wind Deity Palace. The Golden Ape said, "The difficulty of breaking through this array is much harder than sweeping through a large-scale transcendent world. These 2 refiner organisms are merely the tip of the iceberg of the entire Black Wind Deity Palace's defensive power." The Golden Rock said, "Master, do you see that? There's a faint arc there?" "I know. Senior Lei Zhen mentioned it before." Dongbu Shuiying nodded his head. There were many patterns on the ground. There was indeed a large arc around the corridor. This arc might have been left behind by the Black Wind Deity Palace's master for some of his assistants in the past. It was to warn them not to step into this arc. Once they did, they would immediately be attacked. "Let's give it a try." Dongbu Shuiying flipped his hand and took out a shuttle-shaped dart. He flicked his wrist. South, the dart was enveloped in flame chi and instantly turned into a flaming meteor as it flew towards one of the lion beast sculptures. The lion beast sculpture suddenly opened its eyes. Xiu! Xiu! 2 scarlet rays of light shot out from its eyes and landed on the silver coin at the same time. The silver coin instantly turned into ashes with a chi sound. Dongbu Shuiying was secretly speechless. The lion beast sculpture coldly looked at Dongbu Shuiying before closing its eyes. There wasn't a trace of life coming from it. It was just like an ordinary sculpture. Fortunately, it is extremely loyal to the Deity Palace's master's orders. It will not attack any life forms outside the arc. Dongbu Shuiying revealed a smile. "Alright, I've seen everything. Monkey little bird, let's go. It's time for us to leave." He was only trying to understand it a little. With his current strength, forget about conquering this deity palace. He didn't even have the qualifications to enter a large-scale transcendent world. After all, he had just stepped into the transcendent realm. He walked to one of the cracks on the wall of the underground hall. "It's time to go home." Dongbu Shuiying waved his hand. The golden ape and golden rock beside him didn't resist at all. They were directly swept up by the heaven and earth energy and kept into his storage bracelet. Storage treasures were unable to store life forms. However, corpses and refiner organisms could be stored. "Let's go." "Who?" In an instant, Dongbu Shuiying turned into a ray of flame and flew into the crack. As he went deeper into the crack became narrower and narrower. Dongbu Shuiying's flying speed was extremely fast. As the crack became narrower and narrower, it connected with some of the existing cracks underground, forming a fork. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible for a single attack to travel over 1,000 li. Fortunately, Dongbu Shuiying had memorized the map left behind by Raisin. Hence, the fork did not affect him at all. As he flew, there were some places that were extremely narrow. The flame pierced through them. In just the time taken to brew a cup of tea, the scorching lava river flowed slowly. The cracks on the mountain rocks were also blocked by lava. Xiu! A ray of flame shot out from the blocked lava river and turned into a black-robed young man in the air above the lava river. Lava river. Dongbu Shuiying looked at the lava river in front of him and revealed a look of joy. "I'm out." In the time taken to brew a cup of tea, they traveled over 1,000 li and arrived at the lava river. This is the Wuxia volcano. Dongbu Shuiying turned into a stream of water. The stream of water flew at high speed. Although its speed was slower than the flame, it was relatively more stealthy. In a few breaths' time, a stream of water flew out from the crater of the volcano and into the clouds. This volcano was only 1,200 li away from Waterwright's town Snowrock Mountain. It was one of the more famous volcanoes in Azure River County called the Wuxia volcano. Dong Buishuiying was very familiar with it. In the dark night, a bright moon hung in the sky. A stream of water flew through the clouds at high speed. Very quickly, it flew over 1,200 li hu. The stream of water turned into a black-robed young man. The black-robed young man descended slowly and passed through the clouds. He looked down at the tall mountain that he grew up on and the familiar castle on top of it. I'm back. A smile appeared on Dong Buishuiying's face. Chapter 86. Looking downwards, Shuiying's emotions surged. He could not control himself. He could clearly see the main building of Snow Rock Castle. His parents weren't here and he wasn't here either. Only his younger brother and his personal servants lived in the main building. Currently, there was only one room in the main building that was still lit. That room was the study room that Dong Buishuiying used to use. It was already late at night, and the servants wouldn't dare to stay in the study room. Whoosh! Dong Buishuiying's figure flashed and disappeared in midair. Then, he silently appeared in the corridor outside the study room. He stood in the corridor and looked inside through the window. In the study room there was a handsome young man sitting there. There was a large amount of paper on the table, and on the paper there were spell models. Dong Buishuiying stood outside the window and looked at him. Qing Shi, you've grown taller and more mature. Dong Buishuiying smiled and looked at him. He's still studying spells at this late hour. This kid has never been so hardworking in the past. The handsome young man who was leaning on the desk and pondering carefully raised his head as if he sensed something. Through the transparent window he saw a figure outside. He was instantly stunned. He rubbed his eyes and widened his eyes to take a closer look. Who? Instantly he stood up and rushed to the door of the study room. He opened the door and looked at the young man in black. Brother, is that you? Am I hallucinating? Qing Shi couldn't believe it. Although he had been saying that his brother, Dong Buishuiying, would definitely return, his rationality told him that there was more than a 90% chance that his brother had fallen into the black wind abyss and died. I'm back. Why? Do you want me to die? Dong Buishuiying smiled. Qing Shi reached out and hugged Dong Buishuiying. His tears instantly soaked his clothes. Dong Buishuiying touched Qing Shi's head. Suddenly he was stunned. In the past, when he touched his brother's head, he was much shorter than him. But now he was almost as tall as him. But he's still so handsome. With this face, he won't have to worry about food and clothing. Dong Buishuiying, who was in a good mood, mumbled to himself. I'll tell Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong. Qing Shi let go of Dong Buishuiying. He recalled something and said, all these years, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong have been thinking about you. Dong Buishuiying nodded. I'll go with you. Late at night, in the dining hall of Snowrock Castle, it was bustling with noise and excitement. Even the chefs of the castle had woken up overnight to prepare delicious food. They weren't impatient at all. Instead, they were excited because they had heard that the great lord of Snowrock Castle, Lord Dong Buishuiying, had returned. The future of Snowrock Castle would definitely be better. Pass down my order. All the soldiers and servants in the castle will have their wages increased tenfold this month. Qing Shi shouted excitedly in the dining hall. Thank you, young master. I will pass on the order. The maid was excited. At the dining hall's dining table, wine and snacks were placed on the table. As for the delicacies, they were still being prepared. The entire Snowrock Castle was lit up. Even the sleeping soldiers and servants woke up. Many of them woke up with sleepy eyes. Just as they were about to leave the room, they heard their companions say, Ergo, why are you still in a daze? The Lord is back. Our Lord is back. What Lord is back? It's young Master Snow Eagle. What? Countless soldiers and servants were in an uproar. Their Snowrock Castle's most amazing lord was back? Especially when they heard that their wages would be increased tenfold this month. In the dining hall, Dong Buishuiying, Zhongling, Tongsan and Qing Shi were all there. Look at how excited you are. Dong Buishuiying laughed. Alright, what's going on? Why are the servants calling you young master? I've been gone for 6 years. You should have inherited the position of lord by now. At Dong Buishuiying's level of power, the position of lord was indeed nothing. Snow Eagle. Zongling's face was also full of smiles. You don't know, when you fell into the Black Wind Abyss. Many people in the castle wanted Qing Shi to inherit the position of lord. But Qing Shi refused no matter what. He even said that he would wait for you. Even if it was 50 years or 100 years, he would wait until he died. As long as he is alive, the position of lord will always be empty. I knew it, my brother would definitely come back. See, isn't he back now? Qing Shi said proudly. Qing Shi's spirit is different. It's been 6 years, but I've never seen you beaming with joy. Tong Sen also laughed. Uncle Tong, don't talk about me. Look at you, you're smiling so much that your mouth is about to fall off. Qing Shi teased. I'm happy today, Tong Sen laughed. Dongbu Shuiying watched with a smile. He could feel the joy and excitement of these close relatives in front of him. Although Uncle Tong and Uncle Zong were not related to him by blood, they treated him like a nephew. That's right, Snow Eagle, how did you come up from the Black Wind Abyss? Zongling asked. When I fell down, I borrowed the wings of Xiang Pengyun's demonic beast corpse and luckily didn't fall to my death. After that, I spent 6 years to climb up from the bottom of the valley. Dongbu Shuiying said the words that he had long prepared. The news of him escaping from another secret crack must not be leaked. If it was leaked, there would probably be experts that would immediately go in and wipe out that large-scale world. Although Dongbu Shuiying was not an evil person, he was not selfless to this extent. 6 years to climb up? Tong San was shocked. In the depths of the Black Wind Abyss, there is a transcendent expert's cave palace. There are many guards around it, and it is very dangerous. Dongbu Shuiying said simply. Almost all transcendents knew about the Black Wind Deity Palace, so there was no need to keep it a secret. My strength is too weak and I don't dare to go near those guards. I can only hide as far away as possible. To climb out from the bottom of the valley, I had to climb slowly and carefully, without alarming any of the guards. If they were alarmed, then it would be over. I was lucky enough to become a transcendent, so I carefully climbed out. This was the speech that he had long prepared. In any case, no one could confront him. You don't believe me? Go down and try it yourself. Lucky enough to become a transcendent? Zongling, Tong San, and Qing Shi only had these words in their minds. Snow Eagle, you've become a transcendent? Zongling was the first to react. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. There was no need to hide it, because he would soon join a transcendent organization and go to the infernal world. Water Rights Town, Dragon Mountain Manor. Although there was a glimmer of light in the sky, the moon was still hanging high in the sky. The entire Water Rights Town was very quiet. Most of the people were sleeping, and only a few peddlers had woken up early to prepare. At this time, Water Rights Town's Manor Lord Cian was still sleeping soundly. Manor Lord. The white-haired old man Yutu's eyes were still wet, but his face was flushed with excitement as he knocked on the door. Creak. The door opened. Manor Lord Cian's eyes were still a little blurry. Wearing slippers, he glanced at the people outside and said with dissatisfaction, You two, why are you shouting so early? Look, the sky isn't even bright yet. There's a big matter. Yutu said. What's more important than my sleep? Tell me. Manor Lord Cian said. Other than the incident with Dongbu Shuiying that kept him busy for a while, his days afterwards were very ordinary. It's Dongbu Shuiying. Yutu said. Dongbu Shuiying is back. Manor Lord Cian blinked twice, then widened his eyes. Dongbu Shuiying is back? Is the news correct? Yes, it's definitely correct. The entire Snowrock Castle has been cheering and bustling the entire night. All the soldiers' and servants' wages have been increased by 10 times this month. Yutu said. Many servants saw Dongbu Shuiying eating and chatting with his younger brother in the dining hall. They chatted for half the night. My God, he fell into the Black Wind Abyss and still came out alive? Manor Lord Cian said in disbelief. Really? He was very pained at that time. He felt that it was a pity for a dazzling character to suddenly fall. But 6 years later, this Dongbu Shuiying actually came back. Shouldn't we report this news to the higher-ups? Yutu reminded. Yes, report it. Manor Lord Cian immediately sobered up and ordered. I'll send the news now. Immediately arrange for carriages and horses. In a while I will immediately set off for Snowrock Castle. Send people to the city gates in advance and open the gates as soon as possible. It was still too early, it wasn't time to open the gates yet. Yes, you two said. Dragon Mountain Manor had their own special communication method. Manor Lord Xian quickly reported the news to his superiors. He couldn't be bothered to care about how much of a commotion this news would cause. He didn't even have time to eat. After casually eating a few mouthfuls of snacks, he immediately rode his horse and led his group of subordinates straight towards Snowrock Castle. Chapter 87. Early in the morning the air was fresh. As Dongbua Shuang walked out of the castle's main gate, the soldiers at the gate excitedly puffed out their chests. Lord! Looking at these soldiers, he found some familiar faces. Casually walking on the peak of Snowrock Mountain, he looked down at the beautiful scenery of the territory, the villages, and the flowing river. Shuang took a deep breath, inhaling fresh air. The familiar smell of the air was much fresher than the air in the underground Great Hall of the Black Wind Deity Palace. There was also the smell of flowers and grass, as well as some earthy smell. His lordship, a voice rang out. Dongbua Shuang turned his head and saw Bai Yuanji walking towards him. Great mage. Dongbua Shuang was quite respectful towards his brother's teacher. In front of Lord, I don't dare to call myself great mage. Bai Yuanji replied. He did not know that Dongbua Shuang had become a transcendent, but killing Xiang Pengyun was enough for him to lower his position in front of Dongbua Shuang. If Lord thinks highly of this old man, you can call me great mage Bai. Dongbua Shuang nodded slightly. When I heard that Lord had returned last night, I didn't dare to disturb you. Bai Yuanji smiled. Congratulations, Lord, for returning safely from the Black Wind Abyss. The Black Wind Abyss is extremely dangerous. Throughout the ages, there has never been a legend ranker who managed to come out alive. Lord, you are the first. Not really. Dongbua Shuang replied. He was a transcendent. Wanting to escape from the abyss with the strength of a legend ranker was too difficult. Right, how are Ji Rong and Yu? Dongbua Shuang asked. Although he had chatted with his brother for a long time last night, Ji Rong was his brother's ex-girlfriend, so he did not ask about it. Lord, you have just returned and do not know. Wizard Bai Yuanji sighed. That Ji Rong, even I did not expect her to be a believer of the evil god. I only found out about it when Tower Lord Xian came to my place to investigate. Followers of the evil god. Dongbua Shuang nodded. The Dragon Mountain Manor's deduction was indeed very accurate. As for Kong Yu, just half a year after Lord fell into the Black Wind Abyss, she followed Mage Sichuan to the Azure River County. Great Master Bai Yuanji said. He was also paying close attention to Dongbua Shuang's expression. He was also an experienced man. He had long understood the complicated relationship between Yu, Sichuan and Dongbua Shuang. Dongbua Shuang laughed, impressive. Now he viewed these matters more detachedly. He did not have much hatred towards Kong Yu, but he felt that this girl was scheming enough. Now she could be considered to have climbed into the sea family. Clack, clack, clack. The earth trembled faintly. Dongbua Shuang turned his head and saw a group of cavalry galloping on the mountain path in the distance. The one leading the group was none other than Manor Lord Xian. It's Manor Lord Xian, Bai Yuanji said. Since you've arrived here so early, I'm afraid that Manor Lord Xian set off from Waterrights Town before the sun rose. You must have some important matters to attend to, so I won't be a hindrance. With that, Bai Yuanji smiled and left. From afar, Manor Lord Xian saw Dongbua Shuang standing at the edge of the mountain. Without slowing down, he rode his horse towards Dongbua Shuang. Nay nay, the horse's hooves raised and stopped. Manor Lord Xian leapt down and casually left the horse behind, leaving it to his subordinates to look after it. Lord Dongbua. Xian's face was full of joy. When I heard that Lord had returned, I couldn't believe it. This is truly a miracle, a miracle. I have already reported the news. I believe that it won't be long before a transcendent will come and lead Lord into a transcendent force. Those who were ranked in the top 3,000 of the Dragon Mountain book, as well as those who were deemed worthy of training, would normally be led into a transcendent force for training. Even if they were nurtured, the number of people who could step into the transcendent realm was still pitifully small. Thus, people like Si Lianghong, Xiang Pengyun and the others had entered a transcendent force before. But they still couldn't break through and step into the transcendent realm. Oh! Dongbua Shuang frowned. I want to make a trip to the Eastfield province to bring my parents back. You said that a transcendent will be coming. When do you estimate they will arrive? Lord Dongbua, please don't. It's better for you to stay in Snorrock Castle. My Dragon Mountain book spreads news very quickly, and the transcendents travel very quickly as well. I estimate that within 1 or 2 days, a transcendent will arrive. Xian said. What a joke if a transcendent expert came to lead a legend ranker. How could he let the transcendent expert make a wasted trip? Dongbua Shuang nodded slightly. 1 or 2 days. That's enough. I will set off for the Eastfield province, Bellfeather County. I will definitely be back before nightfall. Xian was somewhat stunned. You will be back before nightfall? 2 provinces, ah. If one were to slowly travel along the roads on land, it would be a total of hundreds of thousands of miles. Return before nightfall? From here to the Eastfield province, Bellfeather County, the straight line distance is only 80,000 miles, Dongbua Shuang said. A round trip is a total of 160,000 miles. Even with a top-notch refiner flying ship, if one were to fly with all their might, they would only be able to travel 5,000 miles in 2 hours. In a day of 24 hours, we would only be able to fly 60,000 miles. There is still a long way to go. Manor Lord Xian was still somewhat puzzled. No, I mean I will fly there myself. Dongbua Shuang laughed. Manor Lord Xian was stunned. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at Dongbua Shuang. Lord Dongbua, you have already hung. A layer of flame-like do qi immediately appeared on the surface of Dongbua Shuang's body. The invisible pressure made Manor Lord Xian feel suffocated. Following that, Dongbua Shuang retracted the do qi on the surface of his body. You believe me now? Dongbua Shuang looked at him. I believe you. Manor Lord Xian's mind was still in a daze. Dongbua Shuang was only 28 years old and he had already become a transcendent? Such a monster. In the past 1,000 years, only the eternal wind knight Qiu Qibai could match up to him. Who was Qiu Qibai? He was the #1 expert in the entire Tranquil Sun province. Many powers thought highly of him and believed that in the future, Qiu Qibai would become the #1 expert under the heavens. For example, the protectors of the Black Wind Deity Palace also thought highly of Qiu Qibai. They believed that Qiu Qibai had hopes of breaking through the array. Lord Dongbua. Manor Lord Xian was slightly nervous. He was just a lowly person in charge of a remote Dragon Mountain manor. What was he worth in front of a transcendent? For example, the Xi clan and the Moyang clan. Manor Lord Xian was a deterrent. But in front of a true transcendent, those clans would tremble in fear. From this, one could see the difference in status between the 2 parties. We've known each other since I was 15 years old. Dongbua Shuang smiled. No need to be so polite. Good. Manor Lord Xian was a little flustered. A transcendent had appeared within his jurisdiction. This was something that only a few of the lowly people in charge of the world would encounter. This was because legend rankers would usually be recruited into transcendent organizations. How could a transcendent suddenly appear and require their Dragon Mountain manor to pass on a message? I'll immediately pass on the message. This matter is too big. Manor Lord Xian said. Lord Dongbua, I believe that the 6 big transcendent organizations, even the demonic faction and sorcerer palace will be involved. As he spoke, Manor Lord Xian flipped his hand and a square crystal card appeared. Manor Lord Xian began to write some words on the crystal card. Dongbua Shuang watched on. This was the lowest grade communication tool. It should be able to pass on the message to the Azure River County's Dragon Mountain Manor. For transcendent experts, their communication crystal cards could be used to transmit messages directly through their consciousness. The range of transmission could even cover the entire world. The news has been spread. Manor Lord Xian's fingers trembled as he pressed on the transmission button. Finally, he raised his head and looked at Dongbua Shuang. Sorry for the trouble. Dongbua Shuang said. This has always been my duty. Manor Lord Xian grinned. It is my honor. Lord Dongbua, your matter is too big. It will definitely be reported to the higher-ups of the transcendent organizations. I'm afraid that it will take a long time. The Bloodshed Tavern and the Temple of the Earth God will probably arrive in 1 or 2 days. As you are a newly advanced transcendent, there will be many transcendent organizations coming to invite you. Dongbu Shuang lightly nodded. This was within his expectations. After chatting with Monkey and Little Bird, he had some understanding of the transcendent organizations in the world. That was why he took the initiative to reveal the news of him becoming a transcendent to Manor Lord Xian, allowing him to spread the news. This was so that the various organizations would take the initiative to invite him. After all, on the path of cultivation, external resources were also very important. With competition from various organizations, he would have a better chance of choosing a transcendent organization. I'll first make a trip to the Eastfield Province's Emoyang clan. I'll wait for you transcendents when I return, Dongbu Shuang said. With a whoosh he transformed into a flame and soared into the sky. In an instant, he disappeared from Manor Lord Xian's vision. Manor Lord Xian raised his head in a daze. He muttered, "Our water rights town also produced a transcendent? Who?" Within the clouds he transformed into a flaming meteor, flying at high speed. He set off in the early morning. 4 hours later, before noon, Dongbu Shuang had already flown to the easternmost part of Eastfield Province's Bellfeather County, near the sea thunder tide shore. Mother! The flames in the sky condensed into a black-robed youth. He looked down, borrowing the power of heaven and earth. Dongbu Shuang instantly discovered the place where his mother was imprisoned. Chapter 88. The moment he sensed it, Dongbu Shuang's facial expression changed. Shua! In an instant, he appeared in front of a heavy door of one of the caves in the thunder tide shore. Dongbu Shuang extended his hand and grabbed the chain on the door. His hand was trembling slightly. Chi! The chain that could only be destroyed by a legend ranker started to crumble under Dongbu Shuang's hand. Quang! Dongbu Shuang gently opened the door. Within the cold and damp cave, a white-haired, purple-robed figure was sitting in a corner. She was silent. Because this cave was near the sea, it was already very humid. Back then, Emoyang you could still use spells to clear the humidity. But now the environment here was obviously much worse. Rumble. The seawater outside seemed to be crashing endlessly. Dongbu Shuang walked over slowly and sat by the side silently. Looking at the white-haired, purple-robed woman in front of him, Dongbu Shuang's heart trembled. When he was young, his mother was so beautiful and had a transcendent temperament. But the woman in front of him, her hair was completely white and messy. Her skin was dark and her purple robe was dirty. There wasn't even a trace of magic undulation coming from her body. She had turned into an ordinary person. Dongbu Shuang's eyes turned moist. He extended his hand and gently grabbed his mother's hand. His mother's hand was very rough. Mother! Dongbu Shuang's voice was very soft. The white-haired, purple-robed woman turned her head and looked over. When she saw the black-robed young man in front of her, she was still slightly doubtful. Because, when they were captured, Dongbu Shuang was only 8 years old. I am Snow Eagle. Your son Dongbu Shuang. Dongbu Shuang's voice was trembling. Snow Eagle. Emoyang Yu shook her head lightly. I am really Snow Eagle. Look at my face, there are 2 small birthmarks here. Dongbu Shuang pointed at the spot under his eye. The birthmark was very faint and small. Normally no one would notice it. It would only be discovered if one looked closely. Emoyang Yu's eyes lit up as she carefully looked at Dongbu Shuang's face. Eyes, nose, ears, his mother was too familiar with her son. When he was 8, Dongbu Shuang already had a rough idea of what he looked like now. With a closer look, she noticed many differences. Even his appearance, Dongbu Shuang looked more like his father Dongbu Lai. Emoyang Yu stretched out her trembling hand and touched her son's head. As soon as she touched it, her eyes turned red and tears flowed down. Snow Eagle, it's really you, it's really you. You didn't die? Emoyang Yu was excited. I didn't die, your son fell into the black wind abyss, but I came out alive. Dongbu Shuang is also shedding tears. Both mother and son are incomparably emotional. At this time, suddenly a guard filled with baleful aura walked towards the entrance of the cave Emoyang Yu was in. He muttered, Master said that the door to Emoyang Yu's confinement area has been opened? But it's not time to deliver food yet. I haven't heard of anyone coming to visit this crazy woman. This crazy woman has gone crazy from cultivating spells. She doesn't even care about her brother, Emoyang Chan. Who would come to visit her? Very quickly he reached the entrance of the cave. The heavy door was opened. The guard looked inside and saw a white-haired purple-robed woman and a black-robed youth sitting together. "Brat, who are you? Who allowed you to come in?" The guard shouted. Dongbo Shuiying was talking to his mother. Because of his mother's current appearance, he was already suppressing his anger. When he heard the noisy guard beside him, he couldn't help but turn his head. His eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Boom! Wu Xian's willpower instantly rushed over. When Dongbo Shuiying achieved one with the world, his soul was nourished. When he reached the realm of myriad existences, his soul was also strengthened. Most importantly, when he stepped into the transcendent realm, his body would undergo a transformation, and his soul would also undergo a transformation. If Dongbo Shuiying stared at a person when he achieved one with the world, it would be as though tens of thousands of people were staring at a single person. But now, Dongbo Shuiying's gaze already carried a substantial pressure. On the path of transcendence, a huge upgrade would cause one's entire life to evolve. The soul was the most obvious, and it could even become a god. Ah! That guard felt his vision blur. His ears ringing and his soul trembling. His body went limp and fell backwards, directly landing on the rocks at the bottom of the Thunder Tide shore. Luckily, his body was strong enough and he only bled a little. He then tumbled back into the sea. The impact of the sea water woke him up, and he immediately ran away in fear. With a sweep of his gaze, the guard fell down the Thunder Tide shore and disappeared from his sight. Dongbo Shuiying turned his head and continued to look at his mother. He held her hand and said, "Mother, let me wash your hair." "And okay. It's been dirty for a long time." Mo Yongyu looked at her son, but she still couldn't get enough of it. Dongbo Shuiying lightly waved his hand, and a golden basin appeared in front of him. This was one of the miscellaneous items in Xiang Pengyun's storage treasure. A stream of water appeared in the golden basin, and very quickly it was filled with water. Right now, Mo Yongyu only had her son in her eyes. She didn't even notice how the water appeared. She lowered her head and allowed Dongbo Shuiying to wash her hair. Her dirty hair. Dongbo Shuiying washed it very carefully. There was even water flowing around his fingertips, and it wrapped around the strands of hair, taking away the dirt. In just a short moment, Mo Yongyu's hair became clean. Who? The heaven and earth energy danced around the surroundings, and the entire cave looked brand new. The purple robe that Mo Yongyu was wearing was a refiner's item. With a slight tremble of the heaven and earth energy, the dirt on the purple robe disappeared. "Mother, come and eat something." Dongbo Shuiying waved his hand, and the stone table in the cave flew over. A formless light swept across the surface of the stone table, and cut off the surface layer, causing the stone table to become smoother and cleaner. Some snacks and fruits were placed on the stone table, and there was also a bottle of spiritual liquid from the stone of oceanic world. Dongbo Shuiying poured the spiritual liquid for his mother. "Try it." Dongbo Shuiying laughed. Mo Yongyu smiled as she picked up the wine cup and drank a cup. The moment she drank it, her originally dark and gloomy skin regained some luster, and her eyes brightened up. This stone of oceanic world was the core treasure of a small world. To transcendents, it could nourish their bodies and souls. To mortals, its effects were even more miraculous. "What is this?" "The injuries from my magic power insurrection have healed by 20%. Mother was shocked. "This is a type of transcendent spiritual liquid. If it can help, drink more. You can even eat it as a meal." Dongbo Shuiying asked doubtfully, "Mother, your magic power insurrection? What happened? Also, I heard that you had already stepped into the meteor rank. How did your magic power insurrection happen?" Logically speaking, it was relatively safe for a mage to cultivate all the way to the legend rank. Magic power insurrection rarely occurred. "Initially, when I found out that something had happened to you," Mo Yongyu smiled, "I was filled with pain and hatred. I wanted to quickly become stronger so that I could kill my way out. But at that time my heart was in a mess, and I was too anxious to step into the Silver Moon rank. When I broke through, my magic power model collapsed, and my magic power was completely dispersed. Furthermore, my soul was injured." Dongbo Shuiying gently held his mother's hand and comforted her. The battered guard escaped from the seaside and had already rushed to the camp beside the forbidden area. He shouted, "Something big happened, something big happened," Chapter 89. Thunder Tideshore was a forbidden area where many prisoners were locked up. Naturally, there was a large group of guards and mages controlling the array of the forbidden area. Quick, it's in Mo Yangyu's cell. That black-clothed youth is too powerful. With just a glance, my eyes became blurry and my ears were ringing. I directly fell down Thunder Tideshore into the sea. Too scary. The guards said in fear. Very quickly, a large group of guards gathered. The leader in charge of guarding Thunder Tideshore was a Silver Moon Knight. Just a glance and you fell down? The Silver Moon Knight carrying the weapon box frowned. Could it be a mage that specializes in the soul? First, second, and third squads, gather and prepare to depart. The Silver Moon Knight immediately ordered. Activate the array and prepare to attack. Yes. Everyone carried out the order. The Forbidden Area's array began to activate. The surrounding temperature of Thunder Tideshore began to drop rapidly. Frost began to form on the ground. Scram! An angry roar resounded in the surroundings. A turbulent wave of water appeared out of nowhere. Like a huge snake slithering, this huge wave of water that was at least a few hundred meters long swept across the gathered guards. The guards were all panicking. Some were holding onto their weapons while others were holding onto their shields. The Silver Moon Knight who stood at the very front also had a change in expression. A shield appeared in his hand and blocked in front of him. Rumble. The wave swept across, and the guards were all sent flying. The Silver Moon Knight was the only one who was able to stand steadily. His expression changed. Water attribute magic? It's actually so powerful. I'm afraid it's a Silver Moon Mage. Who dares to invade my Mo Yang clan's forbidden area? The Silver Moon Knight shouted. State your name. Suddenly a flame doqi soared into the sky. The faint flame doqi looked ordinary, but it caused the Silver Moon Knight to feel an invisible fear. Every strand of doqi was like sunlight. The flame doqi in the sky condensed into a huge palm. Who? The huge palm slapped towards the Silver Moon Knight. No, this isn't a mage. The wave of water just now was caused by the realm of myriad existences. The Silver Moon Knight came to his senses. He wanted to dodge, but the huge flaming palm was too fast. He could only use his shield to block it. Pong! The giant palm descended, and with a single slap, the Silver Moon Knight was smashed into the rocky ground. There were many sounds of bones breaking, and the Silver Moon Knight immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Thank you for sparing my life, my lord. The Silver Moon Knight was horrified. He knew that his opponent had been merciful. Otherwise, he would have been smashed into minced meat. Only then did the huge flaming palm slowly retract. The soldiers who were rolling in the distance, as well as the leader of the Silver Moon Knights, looked at the huge flaming palm flying in the air in horror. In the end, the palm turned into a large amount of doqi and flew back to the cave where Mo Yangyu was at the Thunder Tideshore. Captain! Immediately, a guard came over and helped the Silver Moon Knight up. Everyone, don't mess around. Don't disturb that, lord. The Silver Moon Knight ordered. Yes. All the soldiers hurriedly responded. What kind of joke was this? If they really fought, they would probably be killed in an instant. Just now, when the water wave swept across, it used a gentle force. Other than the Silver Moon Knight, the other weaker soldiers, including the Meteor Knight and the weakest ordinary soldiers, were all sent flying. However, none of them died. Clearly, he had been merciful. This palm doesn't seem like a spell. It seems more like doqi. The Silver Moon Knight clutched his chest. His eyes were filled with unease and panic. Even when the doqi is separated from the body, it can still be so powerful. Could it be a transcendent? Within the cave, Dombo Shuang was currently chatting with his mother, eating some snacks and drinking the spiritual liquid of the Stone of Ocean Boundary. He didn't want anyone to disturb him, so he controlled the water from a distance to send the guards flying. If he had used fire, he would probably have burned those guards to death. Although Dombo Shuang was suppressing his anger, he wasn't a lunatic. He knew that every injustice had a perpetrator, and every debt had a debtor. As for these low-ranking soldiers, they were only doing this for a living. Only the leader of the Silver Moon Knight, Dombo Shuang, had taught him a lesson. Snow Eagle. Mo Yangyu watched as the faint red doqi flew in through the entrance of the cave and entered Dombo Shuang's body. Your doqi can leave your body and retract it so easily. Could it be that you've already? Mo Yangyu was in disbelief. And I just became a transcendent not long ago. Dongbo Shuiying said. I fell into the black wind abyss. Because I became a transcendent, I was lucky enough to escape. Mo Yangyu couldn't believe it, but she was also incomparably proud. Her son, 20 years later, that 8-year-old boy had become a legendary transcendent life form. It's like a dream. I can't believe it. Mo Yangyu smiled. Mother, eat some more. This time Dongbo Shuiying only brought some snacks. He guessed that his parents hadn't been living well these past few years. And Mo Yangyu was in a good mood. She ate with big mouthfuls and drank the spirit liquid. Her skin color was changing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Shuiying poured cup after cup for his mother. Even after the flask was finished, he would send even more spiritual liquid from his storage treasure into the flask. In the past few years, his mother's magic energy had gone berserk and collapsed, and her soul had been injured. Then, because she was too sad, coupled with the fact that a mage's body was already weak, and without the nourishment of magic energy, her condition had naturally plummeted. Spirit liquid from the stone of oceanic world was something that even a transcendent saint expert wouldn't be willing to eat or drink. This was Elder Leijin's greatest gain in his life. Before he died, he left behind an array. He would rather destroy it than give it to the demonic beast clan. Usually, if he drank a little, he wouldn't feel hungry for a few days. A pot of spirit liquid was equivalent to 10 days' worth. It was worth over 1 million gold coins. Of course, transcendents wouldn't be willing to exchange it for gold coins. At their level, the money in the mortal world was more than enough for them. Gold coins were just numbers. What they valued more were transcendent items. Mother, how did you know that something had happened to me? Dongbo Shuiying asked. Mo Yangchun sent someone to tell me. Mo Yangyu said. He was purposely trying to anger me. But if not for him, I'm afraid that I would only know about Snow Eagle's matter after a long time. It's Mo Yangchun again. Dongbo Shuiying's eyes were filled with killing intent. He had to die. However, Dongbo Shuiying quickly controlled his emotions and continued to accompany his mother to eat, drink and chat. He hoped that his mother would be happier. And you're actually full. Mo Yangyu smiled. Unknowingly, I drank a lot. My soul's injuries have completely recovered, but I feel like I can't drink anymore. If you're full, then you don't need to drink anymore. Dongbo Shuiying smiled. This kind of transcendent spirit liquid, most people would not feel hungry after drinking a cup a day. Mother, you were injured and your body had deteriorated over the past few years. That's why you were able to absorb and digest it continuously. Now that your body has recovered, you are naturally full. The Mo Yangyu in front of him still had snow-white hair, but the roots of her hair had turned black. Her complexion had completely recovered to how it was 6 years ago, and her spirit was even better. So mystical. Mo Yangyu said. This spirit liquid is extremely important. Mother, you better not tell anyone about it. Dongbo Shuiying said. That stone of ocean world was enough for him to use for 1,000 years. Naturally, he had to leave some for his parents Qing Shi, Uncle Zong and Uncle Tong. They were all his family. However, he still had to keep it a secret. As for the others, Dongbo Shuiying was not worried. After Qing Shi experienced this setback, he should be much more stable now. This spirit liquid was beneficial to the body, dantian, qi si, and soul. It was effective even for transcendents, not to mention mortals. It would be of great help to their cultivation. Even if his parents could not go far in their cultivation, they would still be able to live longer. Don't worry, I know. Mo Yangyu smiled. Then let's go and pick up father. Dongbo Shuiying stood up. Oh. Mo Yangyu's heart palpitated. Ever since she was imprisoned here, the two of them had been separated for 20 years. 20 years, it was too long. Holding on to his mother's hand, they walked out of the cave. Transcendent Do Qi permeated the air, forming a protective layer around his mother. Following that, Dongbo Shuiying brought his mother and flew up. Thunder Tide Shore. Flying in the sky, Missouri Yangyu looked down at the Thunder Tide Shore and the dumbfounded guards. This was the place where she was imprisoned for 20 years. Father is in the East Fragrant Lake Refinery. Let's go, Dongbo Shuiying said. So, in an instant, He turned into a blazing rainbow and broke through the sky. So fast. The Silver Moon Rider leader, who had been clutching his chest with a pale face, looked at this scene in shock. Flying in the sky and burrowing in the ground, it's a transcendent. The legendary flying in the sky and burrowing in the ground? A transcendent? The guards at the side were also shocked. In this world, almost everyone had heard of a transcendent, but those who had actually seen one with their own eyes were extremely few. Who is that black-clothed youth? Mo Yangyu has always been imprisoned. How could she have the chance to meet a transcendent? Is it someone she knew 20 years ago? The Silver Moon Rider was somewhat puzzled. In front of a transcendent, what does the Mo Yang clan count as? But why did they only save her after 20 years? Is it a transcendent who just broke through? The Silver Moon Rider speculated doubtfully. Suddenly, he thought of a person. A very stunning person. A peerless monster that only appeared once in 100 years in the entire Dragon Mountain Empire. Yet, he died together with Xiang Pangyun. Could it be Dongbo Shuiying? He fell into the black wind abyss and came out alive? The Silver Moon Rider was somewhat shocked, but he did not dare to confirm. After thinking about it, among the people that Mo Yangyu knew, only that monster Dongbo Shuiying could possibly become a transcendent. No matter who it is obvious that his relationship with Mo Yangyu is not ordinary. Who knows, this transcendent might even vent his anger on the entire Mo Yang clan. The Silver Moon Rider trembled in fear. The anger of a transcendent? This was definitely not something that the Mo Yang clan could bear. We must report this news to the clan as soon as possible. The Silver Moon Rider did not dare to be negligent and immediately ordered someone to pass the news. If it was an expert from the Azure River County, they would probably recognize Dongbo Shuiying the moment they saw him. However, this was the Bellfeather County of the Eastfield Province. Only a few people knew of Dongbo Shuiying's appearance. Boom! Dongbo Shuiying held his mother's hand as he flew at high speed with flames surrounding him. So fast, is this how a transcendent can fly? Mo Yangyu exclaimed as she looked at her surroundings. The scenery around her had become illusory. Only the scenery far away could be seen clearly. My current speed is only half of my true maximum speed. Dongbo Shuiying explained. When a transcendent carries another person, their speed will be much slower. His body had turned into particles and was completely attached to the flames, allowing his speed to soar to the extreme. Normally, he would only do this when he was in an urgent situation, or when he wanted to enter a narrow area such as a crevice. Maintaining his human form, he could only maintain 70 to 80% of his normal speed. If he were to carry another person, his speed would be even slower. Dongbo Shuiying could only maintain half of his normal speed. We've arrived, the East Fragrance Lake is right in front. Dongbo Shuiying held his mother's hand as they flew through the clouds. Soon they could see the sparkling East Fragrance Lake below. So fast, we've only spoken a few sentences. Mo Yangyu exclaimed. She had lived in Bellfeather County since young and was very clear of the distance between the East Fragrance Lake and the Thunder Tide shore. Dongbo Shuiying used his world energy to envelop the Mage Tower in the refiner workshop beside the East Fragrance Lake. He easily found his father inside and relaxed. His father's condition was much better than his mother's. Chapter 90. The East Fragrant Lake Refinery was like a huge fortress. Tens of thousands of workers were working hard. Other than prisoners, most of them were ordinary people who came here to earn money. In the Mage Tower at the center of the workshop, Master Su Guangqing had the highest position, followed by his disciples, and then the servants. Dongbo Lai was the one who specialized in manual labor. Who is it? The alchemy workshop security was much higher than that of the Thunder Tide shore. Other than Master Su Guangqing, there were also 2 Silver Moon mages specially assigned to operate the magic array. There were also Silver Moon Knights, and one of them even had a special alchemy armor, which allowed him to display the power of a legend ranker. With the coordination of the arrays and the various arrangements of the Mage Tower, even a legend ranker who had reached the state of one with the world could only escape in a sorry state. Who? Dongbo Shuiying held his mother's hand and flew above the refinery, not caring about the guards at all. Hua hua hua, many of the knights had already rushed to the roof of the refinery. Raising their heads to look at the 2 figures in the sky, they were all nervous and their hearts trembled. These 2 were flying. Humph! Dongbo Shuang coldly glanced at them. A substantial soul fluctuation instantly swept towards the group of knights below like a shockwave. Under the impact of the shockwave, the knights felt their ears ringing. Everything in front of them became blurry, and they felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. Their bodies involuntarily turned soft and they all fell to the ground, including the Silver Moon Knight who was wearing the refinery armor. Mother, father is over there. Dongbo Shuang brought his mother and flew towards the Mage Tower. One of the windows of the Mage Tower silently melted, forming a door. Dongbo Shuang and Imo Yangyu walked in. Is it a transcendent? Regardless of whether it was the two Silver Moon Mages controlling the arrays or the Mage Tower's master Su Guangqing, the heavily guarded refinery allowed them to discover Dongbo Shuang who had openly barged in. At the same time they also saw an inconceivable scene. With just a glance all the knights, including the Silver Moon Knight, collapsed. Even a legend-ranked mage who specialized in the soul would need time to cast such a spell. Furthermore, both Dongbo Shuang and Dongbo Shuang had a layer of protective battle chi around their bodies. That transcendent battle chi was as dazzling as the sun. That white-haired girl, if I'm not mistaken, she's Imo Yangyu, right? A wizard asked. Everyone was so nervous that they didn't dare to move. Dongbo Lai was wearing tattered clothes as he sat in his small house to rest. His whole body was covered in sweat. His heaven-ranked knight's body and doqi allowed him to maintain a strong body, but he had been very tired for the past 20 years. Especially in the last 6 years. First, he learned of the Snow Eagle's death. Then, he heard that his wife Imo Yangyu's magic power had gone berserk and she had become a cripple. But he was still holding on. Dongbo Lai himself didn't know why he was still holding on. Perhaps it was because as long as he was alive there was hope. He always held on to a glimmer of hope. Click. The door suddenly opened. I'm coming. Dongbo Lai jumped in fright and stood up. Suddenly he was stunned when he saw the door. Outside the door stood a snow-white-haired lady in purple robes and a black-robed youth. You. Dongbo Lai couldn't believe his eyes. The lady in purple robes in front of him was still as beautiful as before. It was just that her hair had turned white. She didn't look like she had gone crazy like the rumors said. Dongbo. Imo Yangyu looked at the brave man who had fought on the edge of life and death in the past. Her eyes couldn't help but turn red. She stepped forward and held her husband's hand. Dongbo Shuang silently watched from the side. He looked at his father and mother talking. He looked at his parents hugging each other and crying. Dongbo, I haven't told you yet. You should be able to tell. This is our son, Snow Eagle. Imo Yangyu pulled Dongbo Shuang who was beside her. Snow Eagle? Dongbo Lai felt that the black-robed youth in front of him was very familiar. He felt an indescribable sense of closeness. Hearing his wife's words, he found it hard to believe. But hasn't Snow Eagle already? After Snow Eagle fell into the Black Wind Abyss, he survived. He even became a transcendent. That was how he escaped from the Black Wind Abyss. Imo Yangyu said, our son is already a transcendent. Dongbo Lai looked at his son. Eyes, nose, ears, he could clearly remember his son's appearance when he was 8 years old. He was absolutely sure that the person in front of him was his son, Dongbo Shuang. In the world, even if people look similar, it was only their overall appearance. Some of the details wouldn't be so exaggerated. Father, mother, from today onwards, the two of you no longer need to suffer. Dongbo Shuang said. No one has the qualifications to make you suffer. Dongbo Lai suddenly felt incomparably proud. My Dongbo Lai's son has become a transcendent. Ha ha ha. Dongbo Lai laughed excitedly. I knew it. One day hope will come. One day. Ha ha. Good lad. Dongbo Lai smiled and nodded. I knew you would definitely be stronger than me. From the looks of it, you are much stronger than me. Not bad, not bad. Dongbo Shuang's state of mind was extraordinary. But hearing his father's praise, he still felt happy and satisfied. Everything is over. Dongbo Shuang's voice turned cold. But those who made you suffer, we can't let any of them off. And this damned Emoyang clan. They made father and mother suffer for 20 years. This stupid clan doesn't need to exist anymore. Those who did this, all of them must pay the price. 20 years. His parents suffered greatly. His son and his parents parted. Snow Eagle. Mo Yongyu said. No need. There is no need to make it like this. In the entire Mo Yang clan, there are only a few who have enmity with us. Most of them have no enmity with us. The patriarch has always been following the clan's rules. It can't be considered as me alone. After all, Mo Yang clan was the place where she grew up. There were many people she knew there. Just killing Mo Yang Chanbai and a few others and you want to let it go? Dongbua Shuiying stared. Impossible. 8 years old. That cold order. Took away his parents. Dongbua Shuiying wanted to kill Mo Yang Chanbai. But towards the patriarch who gave the order, towards the stupid higher-ups of the clan, he was also angry. Snow Eagle. Dongbua Lai looked at his wife and said, that is after all your mother's birthplace. There are many relatives of your mother. There is no need to make things ugly. Father and mother, don't you hate them? Dongbua Shuiying asked anxiously. At least we are still alive. Mo Yongyu said. There is no need to implicate too many. Dongbua Shuiying clenched his teeth. South. In an instant they disappeared from the room. Mo Yongyu and Dongbua Lai left the room and went outside the window. Outside the window, Dongbua Shuiying's body was bathed in blazing do qi. He was like a god looking down on the mortal world. A terrifying pressure was emitted. Dongbua Shuiying's cold eyes swept across the room. All the mages and knights who were secretly watching in the alchemy workshop were terrified. Dongbua Shuiying. I'm afraid many of you have heard of my name. I came out of the Black Wind Abyss alive. So the ones who should be afraid now is your Mo Yang clan. Dongbua Shuiying's cold voice resounded throughout the entire workshop. According to my original plan, there is no need for your Mo Yang clan to exist. Those who should be killed will all be killed, including your patriarch who gave the order. But my mother pleaded for you. Your Mo Yang clan is really lucky. But even if you can avoid death, you cannot escape punishment. Tell your patriarch Mo Yang Qi. I am waiting for her apology. Dongbua Shuiying, who was in the air, caused all the mages and knights of the Mo Yang clan to feel uneasy. If I am not satisfied, humph humph. His last sneer made everyone's heart turn cold. If he is not satisfied, what would Dongbua Shuiying do? Nobody knew. Father, mother. Dongbua Shuiying flew to his parents' side and held their hands. Let's go home. Dongbua Lai and Mo Yongyu nodded. Although Mo Yongyu felt that her son's threat would definitely cause the Mo Yang clan to feel uneasy and kill a large number of people, it was still better than Dongbua Shuiying's original plan. Moreover, Mo Yongyu no longer had any feelings for the Mo Yang clan. After so many years, she still had resentment in her heart. It was only because her brother and the others were around that she felt troubled. South, bringing along his parents, he turned into a stream of fiery light and instantly streaked across the sky, disappearing into the horizon. The entire alchemy workshop was silent. Very quickly, the Silver Moon mages and knights gathered around Master Su Guangqing. Master Su, what should we do? They were all panicking. What else can we do? If we cannot overcome this, the entire Mo Yang clan is finished. Master Su Guangqing shook his head. What we can do is to relay the words of the transcendent state expert to the clan leader word for word. Let the clan leader make the decision. Sigh, how can the anger of a transcendent state expert be so easily appeased? Chapter 91. The atmosphere in the Mo Yang clan's ancestral hall was extremely tense. The 3 clan elders who came to the hall were all pale and sweating profusely. Speak, what should we do? Sitting in the hall was a silver-robed woman. Her brows were filled with killing intent. She was the current clan leader of the Mo Yang clan, Mo Yang Qi. Ever since the ancestor who created the glory of the Mo Yang clan died, the Mo Yang clan gradually declined. Fortunately, Mo Yang Qi managed to change her body and became a pseudo-transcendent, allowing the Mo Yang clan to rise again. Although in front of a true transcendent, a pseudo-transcendent was a joke, in front of mortals a pseudo-transcendent was very scary. They could also fly in the sky and burrow into the ground. Only a transcendent could injure them, and they had a lifespan of 800 years. Therefore, it was enough to maintain the prosperity of a clan. But the prerequisite was not to offend a transcendent. In the past, the Mo Yang clan had always been very cautious. They even tried to find ways to form a marriage alliance with a top clan that had a transcendent to strengthen their position. But this time, I believe in your clan elders. I left all the trivial matters of the clan to you, but what did you do? The silver-robed woman's voice was filled with anger. Lord Dongbu Shuiying was able to fight evenly with Xiang Pangyun at the age of 22, but he fell into the Black Wind Abyss. Falling into the Black Wind Abyss means certain death? No one had seen his corpse, so how could he be certain to be dead? At that time, you should have treated Dongbu Shuiying's parents well. The three elders didn't dare to make a sound. They were also muttering to themselves. The matter of Dongbu Shuiying and Xiang Pangyun dying together. Clan leader, you also know about it. Now we've caused a huge disaster. Our Moyang clan has been passed down for thousands of years. If we make a single mistake, we'll be destroyed. Moyang Qi was furious. She was indeed panicking. The news of Thunder Tide Shore and East Fragrant Lake Refinery had already spread. Flying in the sky and burrowing into the ground, transcendent Do Qi, causing a group of knights including a silver moon knight to fall to the ground with just a glance. All these proved that Dongbu Shuiying was a true transcendent. Dongbu Shuiying's threat had been transmitted word for word from East Fragrant Lake. Moyang Qi also panicked because Dongbu Shuiying's threat included this sentence. Everyone who should be killed must be killed, including your clan leader who gave the order. Clearly, the original plan was to kill her, the clan leader. Fortunately, with the relationship between Moyang Yu and our family, he did not take things too far. Thinking of this, Moyang Qi's eyes became even colder. She had made her decision. For the sake of our family's survival, we must satisfy Lord Dongbu Shuiying, Moyang Qi said. Now, whenever she mentioned Dongbu Shuiying, she would add the word Lord at the back to show her respect. Yes. We have to satisfy Sir Dongbo. The elders all nodded in agreement. Who was the one who suggested punishing Moyang Yu in the Elders Guild? Who suggested marrying Moyang Yu out? Moyang Qi said. Out of the three elders present, two of them looked at the cold old man. The cold old man's face changed. Elder Shan, you've lived long enough. It's time to sacrifice for the family. Moyang Qi looked at him coldly. The cold old man clenched his teeth and said with a sinister expression, I suggested marrying Moyang Yu out. I just casually gave her a name. She violated the rules of the family. Of course she must be punished. You still want to resist? Moyang Qi's eyes were filled with killing intent. A big family with thousands of years of inheritance, the family's population was already in the tens of thousands. Elder Moyang Shan's entire bloodline was sacrificed. It was a small matter. Moyang Shan, you're not young anymore. You've received the family's grace. Yet you're still afraid of death? Humph, you suggested severe punishment. How can you cower at this time? The other two elders said angrily. The Elders Guild had a group of elders like Grandmaster Su Guangqing, who was an external elder. However, there were only these three in the family's ancestral home. So what if they killed an elder? It's my fault. The cold old man lowered his head. Why did you suggest marrying Moyang Yu out? Who asked you for help behind the scenes? Record everything down. No matter if it's in the open or in the dark. Anyone who was involved in this scheme. Not a single one of them can be let off. Moyang Qi said indifferently. The bigger the family, the more intense the infighting became. There were many direct descendants of the family, so why was Moyang Yu chosen? Naturally, there was a secret struggle behind the scenes. After capturing Moyang Yu and Dongbu Lai, those who schemed against this couple, those who harmed them, not a single one of them can be let off. No matter if it's the one who gave the order, or the one who carried it out. These are all the most basic things. In the end, how can we appease the anger of the transcendents? Ask the elders of the family to discuss and quickly come up with a plan. Moyang Qi immediately stood up and ordered. Hurry up and do it. Those who should be arrested. Not a single one can escape. In a luxurious garden, a middle-aged man wearing a luxurious robe was sitting comfortably. Beside him, there was a group of beauties serving him, peeling fruits for him and giving him a massage. He was Moyang Chanbai. He had just passed 90 years old, but as a Silver Moon Knight, living to 160 or 170 years old was normal. Some could even live up to 200 years old. In terms of lifespan, he could not be considered old. Master! A skinny young man rushed into the garden and anxiously shouted, Master, Master, something big has happened. Bastard! What happened? How dare you barge in? If it's nothing important, be careful of your dog life. Mo Yang Chanbai's face was filled with killing intent. This was the back garden, a place where his women stayed. Male servants and male guards were generally forbidden from entering. It's news from the East Fragrant Lake Refinery, saying that Dongbua Shuiying has already become a transcendent and has already rescued his parents. Furthermore, he gave our Mo Yang family an ultimatum. The skinny young man was Mo Yang Chanbai's lackey. If his master was finished, then his good days as a lackey would also be over. Master, we need to quickly think of a plan. Mo Yang Chanbai's face changed. Isn't Dongbua Shuiying dead? How did he become a transcendent? Is the news wrong? Rumble. Suddenly there was a roar in the sky, and a black refinery airship appeared in the sky. On the airship stood a group of powerful knights and mages, looking down coldly at Mo Yang Chanbai. Mo Yang Chanbai was the most important person in this capture, and he was also the strongest one. To prevent any accidents, the ancestral mansion directly sent out the refinery airship to kill him. Mo Yang Chanbai, quickly surrender. A loud shout came from above. From noon onwards, the entire Mo Yang family began a reign of terror, such as the main culprit, Mo Yang Chanbai, who was interrogated that very night, was executed. Some of the elders of the family, these elders may be weak, but they were all shrewd people, and had made great contributions to the family, so they were supported by the family, and usually came up with plans for the family. They were also discussing how to appease the anger of a transcendent. After all, even if this matter temporarily passed, if Dongbua Shuiying bore a grudge, the Mo Yang family would still be destroyed in the future. Therefore, they must think of a way to appease the anger. In the evening, the sun had already set, and the sky was gradually darkening. Dragon Mountain Manor's Manor Lord Xian stood at the city gate, gazing at the horizon waiting. Hua! A flaming light appeared in the distant horizon, and stopped in the sky. It's the Lord, and beside him are Dongbua Lai and his wife? Xian immediately recognized the three figures in the sky. High up in the sky, Dongbua Shuiying and his parents were looking down. 20 years were back. Dongbua Lai and Mo Yang Yu looked down. Their hearts were in turmoil. Ah, it's the Lord. The Lord is in the sky, and beside him. Ah, it's the old Lord. Although 20 years had passed, many of the soldiers and servants had been here since the castle was built. With a glance, they recognized Dongbua Lai and Mo Yang Yu, causing the entire castle to boil. Father, mother, let's go down. Dongbua Shuiying smiled. I reckon that Uncle Zong, Uncle Tong and Qing Shi will be here soon. Dongbua Lai and Mo Yang Yu, on the other hand, became even more timid, inexplicably nervous and flustered. Who? The three landed in front of the castle's main gate. The drawbridge had long been lowered, and the gate had always been open. Manor Lord Xian, Yu Tu and a large group of people were waiting at the gate. Dongbua Yu. Accompanied by excited voices, Zhongling, Tong San and Qing Shi all appeared at the gate. Among them, Zhongling and Tong San were the most excited. Master. Tong San looked at the snow-white-haired Mo Yang Yu. This sturdy beast race lion man was crying. Zhongling and Tong San rushed up and hugged Dongbua Lai and his wife. Ah! Zhongling quickly pulled the timid Qing Shi. Dongbua Yu, this is Qing Shi. Little Shi too? Mo Yang Yu looked at Qing Shi. When they first separated, Dongbua Shuiying was already 8 years old, and his appearance was more or less the same. But Qing Shi, who was only 2 years old at that time, had changed a lot since he grew up. Mo Yang Yu didn't dare to recognize him. Qing Shi felt complicated. Looking at Uncle Zong, Uncle Tong and his brother's excited expressions, he really didn't have much of an impression of his parents. Little Shi too. Mo Yang Yu reached out and held her son's hand. The more she looked at him, the closer she felt. Little Shi too looks a lot like Yu. Dongbua Lai also smiled. His parents and little brother gradually became familiar with each other. Dongbua Shuiying was watching from the side, and his mood was extremely good. At this time, Manor Lord Xian walked over and said in a low voice, Lord. Manor Lord Xian. Dongbua Shuiying looked at him and smiled. I'm ashamed. I was slightly delayed and only returned now. Lord's return was already very fast. I have something to tell Lord. Manor Lord Xian hurriedly said. My tranquil Sun Province's Dragon Mountain Manor's Lord Yi Hong arrived in the afternoon. He's over there. Tranquil Sun Province's Dragon Mountain Manor's Manor Lord? Dongbu Shuiying turned his head to look. Behind Manor Lord Xian, there was a skinny man with a simple bun of long hair. This skinny man smiled at Dongbu Shuiying as he walked over. He sensed for a moment. Pseudo-transcendent? Dongbu Shuiying made his judgment. Greetings, Lord Dongbu. The skinny man smiled. I am Yi Hong. I'm in charge of the Tranquil Sun Province's Dragon Mountain Manor's miscellaneous matters. Actually, I'm just here to run errands for the various transcendents. In the future, if there's anything you need, please let me know. Chapter 92. Yi Hong's attitude was very humble, but when Dongbu Shuiying was trapped for 6 years, he often chatted with the transcendent cultivator monkey and little bird. Therefore, he was very clear that in any era, there would be a special organization like the Dragon Mountain Manor that monitored the world. The Dragon Mountain Emperor established an empire, so this organization was called Dragon Mountain Manor. Just like how the Xia people once had an emperor Lai Xiong, who unified the world and established an empire. At that time, the organization that monitored the world was called Lai Xiong Dojo. The name changed, but the essence was the same. They monitored the world and served the transcendents. This Yi Hong was able to become the head of intelligence for a province, so his position was rather special. For a true transcendent like Dongbu Shuiying, killing a pseudo-transcendent was a small matter. But if he killed the head of intelligence for a province, it would be the same as slapping the face of the Dragon Mountain Manor. There would be a lot of trouble, and he might even be sent to the infernal realm to be punished. Lord Yi Hong, you came rather quickly. Dongbu Shuiying smiled. Let's sit inside and chat. I'm not in a hurry. Lord Dongbu, why don't you accompany your parents first? Yi Hong said. Haha. I'll be at home during this period of time, so I'm not in a hurry. Dongbu Shuiying had accompanied his parents back from Bellfeather County in the Eastfield Province, and they had chatted for a long time on the way back. Now was a suitable time for his parents and younger brother to interact more. Dongbu Shuiying and Yi Hong walked into the castle. Soon they sat down in a pavilion in the corridor, and there was no one around. When I heard that Lord Dongbu had come out of the Black Wind Abyss alive, I was also shocked. It's rare for someone to become a transcendent at the age of 28 in the entire Dragon Mountain Empire. The last person who came close to Lord Dongbu was our Tranquil Sun Province's Lord Qiu Qi Bai. Yi Hong said, however, Lord Qiu Qi Bai only became a transcendent at the age of 31. He was slower than you by 3 years. Now that Lord Qiu Qi Bai is the number 1 on the Transcendent Sage Board, I believe that Lord Dongbu will also be ranked on the Sage Board. First on the Saint Board? Dongbu Shuiying was shocked. Lord Dongbu, you might not understand, but since ancient times, there has always been a saint ranking and a demigod ranking among the transcendents. Yi Hong explained, the cultivation path of a transcendent expert is split into soaring heavens, saint, and demigod, these 3 great realms. Most of them are only at the sky realm. If they can step into the saint realm, they can be considered as the backbone of the Xia people. If they become demigods, they will be the true peak existences. There are a total of 30 people on the saint ranking. This includes humans, magical beasts, and even the natives of the extraordinary world. There are 10 people on the demigod list. Yi Hong flipped his hand, and 2 long scrolls appeared. These are the 2 rankings drawn up by the infernal realm. Dongbu Shuiying took it. He had long known about the existence of the saint list and the demigod list. This was also to encourage transcendents to go further in their cultivation path. However, Dongbu Shuiying did not expect Qiu Qi Bai to be number 1 on the saint board. One must know that humans, magical beasts, and the natives of the transcendent world were all chosen. Magical beasts were too talented, and according to his understanding most of the time, it was the magical beast race that was chosen to be number 1 on the saint board. Dongbu Shuiying looked at the rankings carefully. Saint Board Rank 1. Eternal Wind Knight Qiu Qi Bai, Elder of the Water Taoist faction. Started with the profound mystery of the wind of all creation. Grasped the true meaning of space cleavage. When he moves, it is hard to distinguish his tracks. In an instant he can appear anywhere. The true meaning of space cleavage cannot be resisted by saints. Main battle record. Once defeated the demigod, ghost deity knight Fengdong, and killed the native demigod, Wind Howl King. Saint Board Rank 2 Lord Beirut, Magical Beast Race. Started with the profound mystery of the water of all creation. Grasped the true meaning of undying. His body is tyrannical. Even if he is heavily injured, he can instantly recover. Extremely terrifying in close combat. Main battle record. Battled with Cho Chi Bai for 2 hours before being defeated. Rescued by the demigod of the Sorcerer God Palace. Saint Board Rank 3 Blood Devil. The highest leader of the small transcendent world, Blood Devil world. Within the Blood Devil world, he borrows the world's power to strengthen himself. Until now, no one has been able to defeat him. Saint Board Rank 4. Everyone looked at the rankings carefully. Dongbo Shuiying was extremely shocked. The top 5 of the Saint Board was only a human. It was Cho Chi Bai. The main reason was that humans were too weak in terms of innate talent. However, from the 6th to the 10th place, 4 of them were humans. From the 11th to the 30th place, 15 of them were humans. Saint Board Rank 30. 20 of them are humans, 5 are from the magical beast race, and the remaining 5 are natives of the transcendent world. Tower Master Ying said, "Those who are able to enter the Saint Board are all rather impressive. They all have hopes of becoming demigods. Especially Eternal Wind Knight Cho Chi Bai. He is the most dazzling genius of our generation. He grasped the extremely terrifying true meaning of space cleavage. Furthermore, he is only 300 plus years old. It is almost certain that he will become a demigod. In the future, he might even become the strongest demigod and be ranked number 1 in the demigod board." Dongbo Shuiying looked at the other scroll. This was the demigod board. One must know that deities could only stay in the mortal world for a maximum of 10,000 years. Once that was over, they would be expelled from the material world. The Dragon Mountain Empire had been established for over 9,000 years. When the Dragon Mountain Emperor became a deity, he was already over 1,000 years old. After establishing the empire for so long, it was obvious that the Dragon Mountain Emperor was forced to leave the material world. Currently, there were no deities in the entire world. Demigods were already the strongest. These are the 10 strongest existences in the world. Ying said from the side. Dongbo Shuiying looked at the demigod board scroll. Demigod Board Rank 1. Black White God Mountains Mountain Lord Hiyuan. Peak of Demigod Realm. Condensed the True Deity Heart. Demigod Board Rank 2. Fire Demon Emperor. Fire Demon World's Supreme Leader. Condensed the True Deity Heart. Demigod Board Rank 3. Sorcerer God Palace's Grand Elder Ao Lan. Grasped the true meaning of life. Demigod Board Rank 4 Soon, he looked through them one by one. There were a total of 10 demigods. Among them, 4 had condensed the true deity heart. Ying said from the side, "Mountain Lord, he is the number 1 expert in the world. He is the strongest demigod. His strength is unfathomable, and he has yet to meet a worthy opponent. As for the Fire Demon Emperor, he is usually in his Fire Demon world. At most, he would send a clone to infiltrate the human world. There is nothing to worry about. On the contrary, this Sorcerer God Palace's Grand Elder is the most frightening enemy of us humans." Most frightening? Dongbo Shuiying was stunned. Right. Although he has not condensed the true deity heart, he has only grasped the true meaning. However, he has grasped the true meaning of life. He is able to transform a demon beast into a human. That is a true human body. There are no flaws at all. Ying sighed. The Sorcerer God Palace has infiltrated us humans, and the source is this Grand Elder. The threat he poses is too great. We humans have always wanted to kill this Sorcerer God Palace's Grand Elder. However, his whereabouts are unpredictable. Furthermore, he has grasped the true meaning of life. Even until now, we have not been able to kill him. Ying's eyes were filled with unwillingness. He then laughed. Of course, this is too far away for us. No matter what, he is still one of the top 3 existences in the world. Let those demigods worry about him. Chapter 93. Under the Pavilion. As the tea was steaming, Dongbo Shuiying smiled. Since the birth of humans and beasts, our Xia people's history has also seen the birth of gods. In the long history of the beasts, there have also been many geniuses. However, no one has been able to completely exterminate the other. It is too difficult to end the war between humans and beasts once and for all. Haha, that's right. Ying smiled. Lord Dongbua is right. In history, the beasts have also caused us to suffer greatly. The great elder of the sorcerer god palace is merely the most difficult opponent in this era. Shame this topic has gone too far. The lifespan of demigods is very long. Most of them seek to become gods and obtain a truly limitless lifespan. Ying said, that's right, this demigod ranking is only determined by our infernal realm. It cannot be said that it is absolutely correct. Those demigods all cultivate in seclusion to become gods. Who knows, one day, a demigod will appear and display an invincible strength. Dongbua Shuang nodded. He already knew this point. What the demigods desire the most is to become gods. After all, a demigod's lifespan is only 3,000 years. Only gods have an unlimited lifespan. Next, let's talk about proper business. Ying said, on our side, there are 6 transcendent organizations and a demonic faction hidden in the dark. The 6 transcendent organizations are the Temple of the Earth God, Bloodshed Tavern, Black-White Deity Mountain, Cloud City, Water Taoist Faction and Sea Deity Palace. Ying introduced, these 6 transcendent organizations represent the righteous path. They protect the entire Xia people, allowing our Xia people to continue on. However, there are still some transcendents who are more selfish. They don't care about mortals, they don't even care about their own clans. They only care about themselves. Therefore, they were tempted by the demonic god. For treasures, for strength, they relied on the demonic god, forming the demonic faction. Dongbua Shuang nodded lightly. Selfish? That's too normal. Transcendents were fundamentally superior to mortals, and their goal in the path of cultivation was to become a god. In addition to their long lifespans, many transcendents still had feelings for mortals and their own families at the beginning. But gradually their parents, children, and other close relatives would grow old and die. After a few hundred years, they would no longer have a deep attachment to their own families. Some of them were even more self-centered. For example, being stuck at Sky Peak or St. Peak. In order to seek more resources for breakthroughs, or for the sake of greater strength, there were many who sought refuge with the demonic faction. Behind the demonic faction was an extremely powerful demon god. He was very willing to send large amounts of treasures to this side of the world in order to attract more transcendents. The 6 great transcendent organizations and the demonic faction are the main transcendent powers of humanity. As for those ordinary fiend celestial forces and some small transcendent organizations, they are not worth mentioning. They are not qualified to invite you, Lord Dongbua. This time, the ones who came to invite Lord Dongbua are the 6 great transcendent organizations and the demonic faction. I'm afraid that the demonic faction will secretly contact you. Lord Dongbua, you must not make a mistake. Ying tried to persuade him. For a genius who had stepped into the transcendent realm at the young age of 28, it would be a great humiliation to the 6 great transcendent organizations if he were to be hooked up by the demonic faction. Don't worry, everyone in the demonic faction wants to kill them. Furthermore, I have relatives to tie me down, so it's impossible for me to join the demonic faction. Dongbua Shuang said. Ying smiled. Then I'll briefly explain the 6 great transcendent organizations. The Temple of the Earth God believes in an extremely powerful god. It is said that his position in the deity world is extremely high, with many gods following him. He is the only organization in the entire Xia people's world that has the qualifications to spread his faith. Anyone else who dares to spread their faith are all demonic gods. It's good to have a big tree behind you. The Temple of the Earth God will also give you many benefits. Once you join, there will be many secret techniques that other transcendent organizations don't have. The transcendence of the Temple of the Earth God. Only the transcendence of the Bloodshed Tavern can match up to them. Overall, they are much stronger than the other 4 great transcendent organizations. The Bloodshed Tavern also has an amazing god behind them. Fortunately, that great existence doesn't care about faith. Otherwise, it would be hard to say who would win against the Temple of the Earth God. The transcendents of the Bloodshed Tavern are all experts in massacres. The 2 transcendent organizations mentioned above both have the backing of a powerful god. Once you join, the advantage is that you will have more resources, and you will also have powerful secret techniques that cannot be learned in the outside world. However, the disadvantage is that there are too many rules and restrictions. The remaining 4 great transcendent organizations are the Black-White Deity Mountain, Cloud Mist City, Water Taoist Faction and Sea Deity Palace. These are the organizations that our Xia people have established over the generations. They are also deeply rooted and have been passed down through the ages. Because they don't need to believe in any god, the 4 great organizations have more freedom and are not restricted. At the same time, the 4 great transcendent organizations have their own territories. The 5 northern provinces are under the control of the Water Taoist faction. The 6 central provinces are under the control of the Black-White Deity Mountain. The 4 southern provinces are under the control of the Cloud Mist City. Although there are only 4 provinces, the southern provinces have good weather, there are more plains, and the population is also higher. The 4 overseas provinces, including all the seas, are under the control of the Sea Deity Palace in name. However, the area of the sea is too big, much bigger than the area of land. The Sea Deity Palace is unable to completely control it. Therefore, a few small-scale transcendent organizations have set up their foundations overseas. Ying laughed. Our Tranquil Sun Province is one of the 5 northern provinces. For us, the more powerful legend rankers, other than the Temple of the Earth God and the Bloodshed Tavern, only the Water Taoist faction would invite them. But Lord Dongbo, you are different. You are a transcendent, and you don't belong to any family. Furthermore, you are so young. Therefore, all the large transcendent organizations will sincerely invite you. Oh right, Lord Dongbo, if you become a transcendent, then Water Rights Town will automatically become the territory of your Dongbo clan. Ying said, if Lord Dongbo joins the Water Taoist faction, then the entire Azure River County will secretly be under the control of your Dongbo clan. If you don't join the Water Taoist faction, then it will be very difficult for the Dongbo clan to touch the Azure River County. Dongbo Shuang lightly nodded. He knew this point. Transcendents had special privileges. Sky Realm and Saint Realm transcendents could directly obtain a territory of a county. This was their family's territory, and they had absolute control over it. Demigods could even obtain a county's territory. And in the dark, the families of transcendents could control even more territories. For example, the Water Taoist faction controlled the 5 northern provinces. Therefore, the transcendents of the Water Taoist faction had a lot of power in the 5 northern provinces. As long as Dongbo Shuang joined, he could immediately order people to take up any official position in Azure River County, with the exception of the Dragon Mountain Manor. Although they still belonged to the Empire in name, they had absolute control in the dark. So much so that the influence of a transcendent's family could even spread to the surrounding counties. One must know that even the Sea Clan, just by relying on Si Lianghong, could faintly control the entire Azure River County, not to mention the clans of the truly powerful transcendents. As for the royal clan, without the Dragon Mountain Emperor, the royal clan could not be compared to the deeply rooted 6 transcendent organizations. Right now it was just a facade. Everything that needs to be said has been said. Lord Dongbo, you should think carefully about which side you should join. Ying laughed. Actually, it doesn't matter if the territory controlled by the clan is a little smaller. To a transcendent, personal strength is more important. I will consider. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Then I will take my leave. Oh right, who will be the first marquis of the Dongbo clan? Ying asked. My father. Dongbo Shuang said. Normal transcendent clans could inherit the title of marquis for 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, they would be demoted to Earl. If they stepped into the realm of demigod, they could inherit the title of duke for 5,000 years. If they became a deity, the 6 transcendent organizations would temporarily lower their heads and submit to them. They could become the emperor of the world, and their own clan would become the royal clan. They could continue to pass down their inheritance until the next deity was born. Ying and Dongbo Shuang chatted for close to an hour. The two of them ate and drank a little before Ying temporarily stayed in the castle. That night, Dongbo Shuang went to accompany his parents and little brother. His family was very lively. However, the current Dongbo clan's population was still too small. No matter how much territory they controlled, they still had to let outsiders manage it. Late at night the wind blew. Dongbo Shuang laid on his bed and had already fallen asleep. He was in a good mood. Suddenly he opened his eyes. Dongbo Shuang frowned. He wore his loose pajamas and walked to the corridor. His silhouette flashed twice, and he was already out of Snowrock Castle. He arrived at the top of a mountain outside the castle. At the top of the mountain there was a man squatting on a huge rock. The left side of this man's hair was shaved, while the right side was hanging down. He squatted there with his eyelids drooping. In his hand was a blade that was slowly sharpening the rock. Although his eyelids were drooping, he could clearly sense an aura approaching him. That aura contained a sharp transcendent Do Qi, as well as a surging aura from his body. Dongbo Shuang, I didn't expect that the moment you stepped into the transcendent realm, your body's strength would already reach the middle stage of Sky Realm. You awakened the primordial bloodline when you were still a mortal? The half-bald man stopped sharpening his blade and raised his head to look at Dongbo Shuang. The sharpness in his eyes caused even Dongbo Shuang to feel fear. This was an extremely terrifying opponent. Chapter 94. In Dongbo Shuang's senses, the half-bald man who was squatting on the big rock in front of him and sharpening his blade had a blurry aura, making it hard for him to determine his exact strength. For example, when he sensed Yi Hong, the head of the Dragon Mountain Manor in the Tranquil Sun Province, Dongbo Shuang could clearly sense his aura and his Do Qi. He was sure that Yi Hong was only a pseudo-transcendent, but this half-bald man, even his senses were so vague. Clearly, the gap between them was too great. On the contrary, the other party could clearly sense his body and aura. Yes, he has awakened his primordial bloodline. Dongbo Shuang did not hide anything. To transcendents, awakening their primordial bloodline when they were still mortals was a small matter. I knew it. No wonder your body is so strong even though you just became a transcendent. The half-bald man's lips curled up. Transcendence would cause one's body to undergo a qualitative transformation. As for those ordinary legend rankers, their bodies were very weak and they relied more on their battle chi. But once he successfully transformed into a pseudo-transcendent, his body would transcend into a transcendent, and his Do Qi wouldn't change, but his physical strength would reach the level of the top 500 in the Dragon Mountain book. Before Dongbo Shuang broke through, under normal circumstances, his body was already able to reach the level of 1 to 200 in the Dragon Mountain list. After his body underwent transcendence, his body underwent a transformation. Right now, his pure physical strength had indeed reached the mid-stage of Sky Realm. Once he activated his power bloodline, he could barely reach the peak of Sky Realm. Sky rank was divided into initial stage, middle stage, and peak stage. Which bloodline? The half-bald man's eyes lit up. It can control the power of heaven and earth? Or space or... It's just a normal burst of strength. Dongbo Shuang shook his head. What a pity, what a pity. If it was someone who could control the power of heaven and earth, or something related to space, or even an undying body, your future path of transcendence would be much easier. The half-bald man shook his head gently. Dongbo Shuang nodded. He was also very clear about this. There was almost no hope for the second awakening of the primordial bloodline. Therefore, his physical strength was almost at its peak. Even if he cultivated to become a saint tier or even a demigod, his physical strength would not change much. At most, he could rely on some resources and treasures to forcibly increase his physical strength, but the increase was very small. To be able to step into the early stage of the saint level with great difficulty, the price one had to pay was enough to make a demigod's heart ache. As for battle chi with time, he could easily cultivate it to the peak of Sky Realm. With the addition of a secret Do Qi technique, he would definitely be able to surpass his own physical strength. Therefore, the further one progressed, the more powerful one's Do Qi would be. Some who awakened the primordial bloodline were able to control ice, fire, teleportation, and even lightning. Then, after becoming a transcendent, those who could control ice would be able to control the power of ice more freely and clearly. It would be much easier for them to comprehend the profundities of all things. As for those who had awakened spatial bloodlines, they were even more heaven-defying. At the Sky Realm, he might be able to teleport. This was something that most martial saints could not do. On the other hand, Dongbo Shuang was only able to unleash his strength. It did not help him in comprehending the profound mysteries of all creations. It would not be of any help to his strength in the future. It was indeed a pity. I thought you'd awaken some kind of special primordial bloodline and become even more monstrous. What a pity. The half-bald man then grinned. Whatever, take a few moves from me first. Whoosh. The half-bald man moved in an instant. Dong Buishuiying did not expect the other party to attack so abruptly. He immediately retreated and shouted, "Stop!" He did not want to fight. This was because he still did not know the other party's identity. The 6 great transcendent organizations were righteous and protected the entire Xia people. Therefore, they were relatively united internally. Even if there were some competitions, they would rarely fight to the death. After all, the infernal realm had already set down a rule: transcendents were forbidden from killing each other. If one killed, they would be investigated and punished accordingly. If it was serious, they would even be sentenced to death. Of course, this rule did not apply to the demonic faction, sorcerer palace, or the natives of the transcendent world. If the man in front of him was from the 6 great transcendent organizations, he should not do anything to him. But what about the demonic faction or sorcerer palace? It was highly possible that he would be killed. Of course, logically speaking, even if the demonic faction and sorcerer palace had spies, they should not have arrived faster than the 6 great transcendent organizations. Do you think you can escape? The half-bald man turned into a shadow and blocked Dong Buishuiying. Following that, a black light slashed towards him. What a fast blade! Dong Buishuiying retreated. The Feishuo godly spear appeared in his hands as he poured his transcendent Do Qi into the spear. Hoo! The spear swung upwards to meet the black blade light. However, the black blade light casually changed its direction and dodged Dong Buishuiying's attack. Voila! However, the Feishuo godly spear also changed its form. The spear itself turned in a circle, but this simple circle completely enveloped a large area in front of it. The water around the spear also revolved, making it impossible for the black blade light to dodge. With a chi sound, it collided with the body of Dong Buishuiying's spear. A strange force caused Dong Buishuiying's spear to pause for a moment. The short blade immediately broke through the spear's defense and entered into close combat. Dong Buishuiying's expression changed. Open! Dong Buishuiying activated his strength bloodline as he swept the spear in his hand to the side. Blazing flames appeared on the tip of the spear, and its speed was incomparably ferocious. In addition to the fact that the spear was long enough to cover a large area, the half-bald man could only retreat with a tap of his feet. The tip of the spear whistled past the half-bald man's body, and the half-bald man's attack completely missed. Hong long long, Dong Buishuiying used all his strength to sweep the spear horizontally, and the shockwave formed from the pressure of the spear blasted towards the side. Everywhere the shockwave passed, the mountain rocks and trees crumbled, and the entire area was destroyed by the shockwave. Furthermore, this was merely the aftermath of the shockwave. You actually managed to block me? Interesting. The half-bald man's voice reverberated in the air. Who? His figure strangely floated upwards, and Dong Buishuiying could feel his figure becoming blurry. In an instant, he was already closing in on Dong Buishuiying. Dong Buishuiying had no choice but to spin his spear, forming a huge whirlpool of water in front of him. It was as though he was using a huge shield to block the enemy. Just like the previous time, the saber collided with the spear, causing the spear to stop in its tracks. However, this time the saber was actually stuck to the spear, causing Dong Buishuiying to have a hard time even exerting his strength. Hua! The saber stuck to the spear, and along the edge of the spear, it slashed towards Dong Buishuiying. Dong Buishuiying was forced to let go of the Feishuo godly spear, and at the same time, he turned around to evade the saber. However, as he turned around, a shuttle-shaped dart appeared in both of Dong Buishuiying's hands. Shwa shwa shwa. Under the explosive strength of Dong Buishuiying, countless darts were thrown towards the half-bald man. Throwing darts at such a close distance caused the half-bald man to retreat in shock. At the same time, a black saber flashed in a circle, blocking the darts that were flying towards him. Dong Buishuiying seized the opportunity to grab the spear back into his hands. Brat, you can still throw darts? The half-bald man felt helpless. Looks like it will be difficult to defeat you if I suppress my strength. I'm afraid I'll have to wait for another 8 to 10 moves. Compared to senior, Dong Buishuiying is still far from being able to match up to you, Dong Buishuiying said. When they exchanged blows earlier, Dong Buishuiying's strength was actually weaker than his. Other than the burst of speed that allowed the other party to suppress his speed, the other party's speed was much slower. It was just that the other party's movements were unpredictable, and the other party's cultivation realm was much higher. That was why Dongbu Shuiying could feel the gap between them. I've already cultivated for over 800 years, and I'm already at the peak of the martial saint realm. If I'm the same as you, wouldn't it be embarrassing? The half-bald man curled his lips. I didn't expect that you not only grasped the profound mystery of fire in creation, but you also grasped the profound mystery of water in creation. Furthermore, it seems like there's a connection between water and fire. Dongbu Shuiying was slightly shocked. This old fellow's eyesight was truly incredible. You're only 28 years old, and you're already able to complement each other with water and fire. Who knows, you might be able to grasp the true meaning of water and fire in the future. The half-bald man flipped his hand and took out a piece of paper. He threw it casually, and the paper sliced through the air like a saber. Dongbu Shuiying reached out and caught it. This is the condition that our Bloodshed Tavern has set for you. As long as you join us, we will fulfill all of your conditions. Your comprehension is better than what I expected. I can make my own decision. The benefits on the paper can be increased by 50%. The half-bald man said, I will stay in Azure River County for 10 days. If you agree to join my Bloodshed Tavern within these 10 days, tear this piece of paper and I will come over immediately. The half-bald man suddenly laughed. Oh right, I haven't told you my name yet. I'm called Tu Liang. Tu Liang? Dongbu Shuiying was shocked. Saint ranking number 10. Dark Night Blade Demon Tu Liang, Bloodshed Tavern Assassin. Grasped the true meaning of Dark Night. When the opponent exchanged blows earlier, he did not reveal the might of the profound mystery of myriad existences, nor did he reveal the might of his true meaning. Once he revealed it, there would be no need to fight anymore. Just by relying on some strange techniques, the opponent was able to suppress him. Little water lady, you've been watching from the side for a while. Why haven't you shown yourself yet? The half-bald man sneered. Who are you calling little water lady? An angry roar resounded in the air. A towering figure suddenly appeared at the top of the mountain. He was at least 5 meters tall and his body was sturdy. He was wearing a bronze armor, and there was a faint stream of water surrounding his body. Such a powerful existence, how could he not be angry when he was called Little Water Lady? Ha ha ha, Little Water Lady is angry. Alright, I'm leaving. If I continue, this temple night will go crazy. The half-bald man's figure flashed and completely merged into the darkness, disappearing from sight. Chapter 95. The face of the tall and big knight in bronze armor was like a sculpture. Seeing that the Dark Knight Saber Demon Tu Liang had disappeared, he let out a cold snort and then looked toward Dongbu Shuiying. A hint of a smile appeared on his face. I'm Wen Liang from the Terrene Shrine, 21st on the Saint ranking. Water God Knight Wen Liang Terrene Shrine's Knight. Grasped the true meaning of water. Dongbu Shuiying was speechless. Wen Liang? Another expert ranked on the Saint ranking? It was important to note that there were only 30 humans, natives of the transcendent world, and demonic beasts on the Saint ranking. Our Terrene Shrine has the most resources, and we even have many special techniques and secret arts passed down from the immortal realm. These are things that only our Terrene Shrine's internal members can learn. Water God Knight Wen Liang smiled and said, therefore, on the whole, our Terrene Shrine and Bloodshed Tavern are much stronger. Of course, for example, the current number 1 on the Hallowed rankings, Eternal Wind Knight Shou Qi Bai. It's purely because his comprehension ability is too high. The cultivation technique he cultivates is inferior to ours. This is the list. Wen Liang threw out a piece of paper that was glowing red as well. The paper flew towards Dongbu Shuiying and said, you're actually able to comprehend the profound of water and fire creation at the same time. You're even more powerful than the information we received. I can make the decision to increase the resources and treasures on this paper by 50%. For the next 10 days, I will also be staying in Azure River County. If you decide to join my Temple of the Earth God, you only need to tear the paper. I will be able to sense it and come over immediately. Dongbu Shuiying took the paper and looked at the conditions written on it. I won't stay any longer. I'll take my leave first. Wen Liang nodded slightly and instantly shot up into the sky, disappearing into the night. These two experts on the hallowed list came and left quickly. Dongbu Shuang looked at the two lists. One was from the Terrene Shrine, while the other was from the Bloodshed Tavern. In the Bloodshed Tavern, extraordinary weapons can be chosen at will. The maximum value is 15 kilograms of third-tier origin stones. 2. You can choose any one of the 5 divine secret arts of slaughter. 3. You can choose any chi method you like. 300 kilograms of third-grade origin stones. Over at the Terrene Shrine. 1. Extraordinary weapons can be chosen at will. The maximum value is 50 kilograms of third-grade origin stones. 2. You can choose any one of the 10 great divine-level secret arts. 3. You can choose any chi method you like. 150 kilograms of third-tier origin stones. When Dongbu Shuang returned to the castle, he sat on the bed and looked at the paper. Then he shook his head and said, "God-tier secret skill, how tempting. It's a pity that the Terrene Shrine and Bloodshed Tavern have too many restrictions. As for transcendent weapons and origin stones, on the other hand, Dongbu Shuang did not really care about it. To transcendence, origin stones were extremely important. They could greatly increase the speed of their cultivation. For example, to cultivate from Sky Realm Initial Phase to Saint Realm Initial Phase, disregarding other bottlenecks, just the accumulation of energy. If one were to absorb the energy of heaven and earth, it would take around 700 years. One had to know that a Sky Realm Transcendent only had a lifespan of 800 years. Of course, to break through, the most important thing was still the realm. Origin stones are important, but Elder Lejean prepared a large number of origin stones in order to break through to the demigod level. Although he used up a lot of them, there are still over 3,000 kilograms left. Dongbu Shuang thought to himself. Apart from the Oceanic World Stone and a protective inner armor, all the other valuable treasures that Elder Lejean had accumulated over his lifetime had been sold for origin stones. After exchanging for over 10,000 kilograms of origin stones, he had used up more than half of it for breaking through, but there were still a lot left. Over 3,000 kilograms of origin stones, even a peak Saint Realm expert would not be able to gather more than 3,000 kilograms of origin stones. Only those old fellows who had been adventuring for a long time, or those who were extremely strong like Chi Chou Bai, or those who had had a fortuitous encounter. Otherwise, a normal peak Saint Realm expert would not be able to gather more than 3,000 kilograms of origin stones. Normal origin stones were all third-tier origin stones. With so many origin stones on him, Dongbu Shuang was naturally rich and overbearing. He placed more importance on techniques. Secret skills. The god-tier secret skills of the Bloodshed Tavern and the Terrene Shrine were passed down from the deity realm, and were definitely not passed down to outsiders. They were the strongest secret skills in the world. Unless one joined these two sects, or joined the demonic faction, one would not be able to learn any god-tier secret skills. There are too many rules restricting me, making me feel uncomfortable. Dongbu Shuang instantly decided, I'll temporarily give up on these two sections. The more arrogant one was, the more they disliked being restricted. Whether it was the Saint Rankings number 1 Chou Bai or the Demigod Rankings number 1 Mountain Lord He, neither of them were from the Terrene Shrine or the Bloodshed Tavern. How could such peerless geniuses be restricted by you? The night passed. Early the next morning, the Tranquil Sun Province's Dragon Mountain Manor head, Ying, found Dongbu Shuang. Under the pavilion, the two sat facing each other. Lord Dongbu, you've caused me so much trouble. Ying said helplessly, last night, I received news that you displayed the profound mystery of the water of myriad existences in the Bellfeather County of the Eastfield Province? Yes. Dongbu Shuang nodded. He had used a stream of water to slap away a group of guards. You've grasped the water and fire of myriad existences at the same time. Yet you didn't say anything. Ying said helplessly, you should know that the stronger you are, the better the conditions that the various transcendent organizations will give you. I've already sent the news to everyone late at night. I'm ashamed. It's my fault. Dongbu Shuang said. Are you still hiding your strength? Ying asked. Whatever strength you have, just tell me. Does awakening the primordial bloodline as a mortal count? Dongbu Shuang teased. Of course it does. Ying stared. Can you control the energy of the world? Or power burst? Dongbu Shuang said with a smile that wasn't a smile. Ying was stunned. then helplessly said, "All right, pretend I didn't say anything about this." Power burst was completely useless in comprehending the realm, unless one awakened a second time, but the second awakening of the primordial bloodline was too difficult. Currently, there wasn't a single transcendent in the world who could awaken the primordial bloodline a second time. After all, the moment it was awakened, one would be comparable to a true primordial life form. Yi Hong looked at the distant sky in shock. Dongbo Shuang turned to look as well. In midair, two figures were walking side by side. One was a white-haired handsome man, and the other was a beast-man lion man. Eternal Wind Knight, Swordsmanship Knight. Yi Hong said in shock. It's them? Dongbo Shuang was shocked as well. The strongest humans amongst saints. In the top 5 of the saint rankings there was only one human, and that was Eternal Wind Knight Qiu Qi Bai. Saint rankings number 6. Swordsmanship Knight Tan Shi, Sea Deity Palace Elder. Started with the profound mysteries of the great mountain of all things. Grasped the true meaning of Swordsmanship. His might is so strong that he can be said to be number 1 amongst saints. Lord Dongbo, it seems like the various organizations hold you in high regard. They've sent their elders, and they're all experts of the saint rankings. Yi Hong exclaimed. And Dongbo nodded. Including the Dark Knight Blade Demon and the Water Deity Knight. The 4 that came were all experts of the saint rankings. Who? Qiu Qi Bai and Tan Shi landed side by side. Dongbo Shuang. Tan Shi grinned. Your 2 uncles are beasts. Yes. Dongbo Shuang nodded. Tan Shi's gaze towards Dongbo Shuang was very intimate. The beastmen had an awkward position amongst the humans. Although the law stated that beastmen had equal status with other humans, there were still some who discriminated against beastmen. Even amongst the transcendents, there were still some who discriminated against beastmen transcendents. Moreover, the number of beastmen transcendents was low, and it was indeed very suffocating. Dongbo Shuang's relatives had 2 beastmen. This caused Tan Shi to have a very good impression of Dongbo Shuang. Dongbo Shuang. Qiu Qi Bai spoke. His voice was rather gentle, and his gaze was reserved. I'm guessing that you've met the people from the Temple of the Earth God and the Bloodshed Tavern. In terms of secret arts, our 4 transcendent organizations are definitely inferior to them. However, they have a lot of rules and are rather strict. My Water Taoist faction can compensate you in other aspects. This is the list. As he spoke, he threw out a piece of paper. Beside him, Tan Shi did the same. Yet another 2 lists. Dongbo Shuang took a look. Good heavens! Sea Deity Palace and Water Taoist faction had given even more treasures. Among them, Water Taoist faction had the most. You're from the Tranquil Sun Province and so am I. Qiu Qi Bai smiled. I hope that you can join the Water Taoist faction. After all, the 5 northern provinces are under the protection of our Water Taoist faction. My Tranquil Sun Province only has a total of 2 saint experts. I hope that you can be the 3rd. Chongfeng, he has just stepped into the transcendent realm. And you think that he can become a saint? Tan Shi teased. I can't guarantee it. Qiu Qi Bai looked at Dongbo Shuang. Your talent is very good. To be able to step into the transcendent realm at such a young age, and even grasp the profound mysteries of water and fire. Your comprehension is also very high. With such talent, if you are careless and arrogant, you might not be able to step into the saint realm. That would be too shameful. I'm guessing that this time all the transcendent organizations will send out saint experts. Why? It's because we all think that you can become a saint. I reckon that each organization's conditions are very high. The origin stones they give are enough for you to reach the saint primary phase. For example, the Temple of Earth God and Bloodshed Tavern. I reckon that they would give you a random god tier secret technique. Dongbo Shuang nodded his head lightly. Even the ordinary transcendents from the Temple of Earth God would have to go through a test and contribute in order to get a god tier secret technique. But for Dongbo Shuang, he would get one the moment he joined. For example, with the 600 kilograms of origin stones provided by the Water Taoist faction, Dongbo Shuang would be able to reach the saint primary phase just by absorbing the energy within the origin stones without absorbing any heaven and earth energy. Obviously, all the organizations felt that Dongbo Shuang was a good seedling. In the future, he would be able to become the backbone of the human race. Haha, brat, give it your all. Tanshi glanced at Qiu Qibai beside him. In the past 1,000 years, the person beside me was the youngest to step into the transcendent realm. But now you have surpassed him. If you don't even reach the saint realm, Qiu Qibai will definitely be very angry. Qiu Qibai laughed. That afternoon and evening, Cloud Fog City and Black White Deity Mountain sent out their representatives. Similarly, they were all saint-ranked experts. It could be seen how much importance they placed on Dongbu Shuiying. From then on, all 6 transcendent organizations sent out invitations. Which side should he join? It all depended on Dongbu Shuiying's choice. Chapter 96. The other transcendents left after arriving, but Qiu Qibai and Tanshi, the 2 strongest transcendents on the saint ranking, were temporarily staying at Snowrock Castle. In their words, they were temporarily protecting Dongbu Shuiying. Early morning, Dongbu Lai and his wife, Dongbu Shuiying, Qingshi, Zhongling, and Tongsan were all eating breakfast together. I want to hear father's opinion, Dongbu Shuiying said, explaining the pros and cons of joining a large organization. Why would you want to hear our opinion about joining a transcendent organization? Dongbu Lai said, we don't know much about transcendence. In short, whichever is the most suitable for you, just choose, don't worry about us. Mo Yang, you also said, right, how many people does our Dongbu clan have? We don't even have enough people to manage Water Rights Town, let alone Azure River County. Don't worry, Dragon Mountain Manor will have enough people. Dongbu Shuiying smiled. I'll say it again, choose whichever is the most suitable for you. Dongbu Lai said. Zhongling, Tongsan, and Qingshi also agreed. They obviously didn't want to affect Dongbu Shuiying's decision. After all, to them, transcendence were the most important matters. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. Since that's the case, I'll choose the Water Taoist faction. Water Taoist faction? Dongbu Lai was puzzled. Why? Qingshi also asked, brother, didn't you say that the Temple of the Earth God and the Bloodshed Tavern are the best in terms of secret techniques, and the Black White Deity Mountain is the best in terms of treasures? Dongbu Shuiying lightly nodded. The founders of the Black White Deity Mountain were 2 extremely powerful transcendent mages. Therefore, the Black White Deity Mountain had many mages, and would gradually attract more mages. They refined a large number of transcendent weapons and arrays, which attracted many transcendent knights to join them. This way they could obtain many transcendent weapons at a lower price. The Black White Deity Mountain managed 6 provinces, and Mountain Lord he was now recognized as the number 1 under the heavens. The Terrene Shrine's Bloodshed Tavern has too many rules. It's not suitable for me. Dongbu Shuiying laughed. As for the other 4 big organizations, there isn't much difference between them. Since I'm from the Tranquil Sun Province, it's more suitable for me to join the Water Taoist faction. The Water Taoist faction's Eternal Wind Knight Qiu Qibai also treated me very well. In the morning, Dongbu Shuiying, Qiu Qibai and Tanshi were all seated in the pavilion. Tower Lord Yihong stood at the side and poured tea for them. Clearly, he was used to serving transcendence. You chose the Water Taoist faction? Tanshi's lion eyes widened as he slapped his thigh and said, it's a pity that he didn't join our Sea God Palace. Your Sea God Palace had no hope in the first place, okay? Qiu Qibai smiled. He was in a good mood. My Water Taoist faction has never treated you as competitors. Tanshi curled his lips. Look at how smug you are. Snow Eagle. Qiu Qibai also addressed him more intimately. From today onwards we are good brothers. You can just call me Brother Eternal Wind. Dongbu Shuiying was a little hesitant, because he knew the rules of the 4 great transcendent organizations. Legend Rankers were disciples. Sky Realm Transcendents were protectors. Saint Realm Elders were elders. Demigods were the pinnacle. Even if they weren't the leaders of a transcendent organization, they would still be the Grand Elder, Honorable Vice Mountain Lord, Vice Temple Lord, and so on. Thus, under normal circumstances, Dongbu Shuiying would have to call him Elder Qi or Elder Eternal Wind. Calling him Brother Eternal Wind was a little too arrogant. After all, he was the number 1 on the Saint board. He had killed a transcendent world's indigenous demigod and defeated the demigod ghost deity knight Feng Dong. Don't be shy. Most of the transcendents in the Water Taoist faction come from the 5 northern provinces. Our Tranquil Sun province is naturally closer. Qiu Qibai laughed. Previously, our tranquil sun province had a total of 9 transcendents. Including you, it will be 10. Among them, Old Peng and I are Saint Rankers. The rest are Sky Realm transcendents. I have high hopes for you, or rather the entire world has high hopes for you. As long as you don't slack off, stepping into the Saint Realm won't be a problem. At that time, our tranquil sun province will have 3 Saint Rankers. Our tranquil sun province will be like brothers, so you don't have to be so polite. Demigod? No one dared to say. A demigod had a lifespan of 3,000 years. However, the entire Water Taoist faction only had 2 demigods. Just like Elder Leijun, he was not bad. He even had the Stone of the Ocean, but he still failed and died. There were too many similar cases. Only someone like Qiu Qibai, who was ranked first on the Saint Board and was still young, would be thought to have a high chance of stepping into the demigod realm. Brother Eternal Wind. Dongbu Shuiying still didn't call him Brother Eternal Wind. You brat. Qiu Qibai laughed. With a flip of his hand, 3 bracelets appeared in his hand. 1 was black and 2 were white. This is the communication bracelet, a transcendent alchemy item. The black one is for you. The other 2 are white, and can be considered as ordinary communication bracelets. You can leave them for your family, and you can contact them in the future. These white bracelets are very cheap. 1 gene of origin stones can be exchanged for 5 of them. If you need more, you can go buy them yourself. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes lit up, and he immediately took them. He kept the white bracelets for the time being. He easily refined the black bracelets with his transcendent qi, and when he put them on his arm, the black bracelets fused into his skin. Dongbu Shuiying sensed it. The inside of the black bracelets seemed to be 3-dimensional. There was a simple serial number. Water Tranquil Sun 29. Your communication serial number is Water Tranquil Sun 29. Qiu Qibai laughed. In the future, when you send messages, others will naturally discover your communication serial number. Every communication serial number represents a transcendent. Dongbu Shuiying was suddenly startled, because 3 consecutive messages came through his communication bracelets, and his consciousness directly received them. It was extremely mystical. The 3 messages were, Water Tranquil Sun 16. I am Qiu Qibai. See God to you 9. Kid, I am Tanshur. This is my communication serial number. Dragon Mountain Tranquil Sun. Master Dongbu, I am Yi Hong. Interesting. Dongbu Shuiying felt that it was very mystical. Oh right, there is also a very special serial number. It is called Xia People's Xian Hua. Qiu Qibai said. This is a serial number that every transcendent knows. The moment you meet with an extremely important matter or life or death situation, you can immediately ask for help. When you ask for help, you have to provide your location. Your communication bracelets have a map, and you can mark your location on the map, and then send a message to Xia People's Xian Hua. Dongbu Shuiying nodded his head. Because everything was transmitted through thought, how strong was the soul of a transcendent? Thus, in the blink of an eye, they would be able to transmit the message. Our 6 great transcendent organizations have the absolute advantage in terms of strength. Qiu Qibai laughed. Thus, the demonic faction and other demonic god organizations, as well as the Sorcerer God Palace, would normally not dare to ambush you. As long as we find out that you are ambushed, a demigod expert that can travel through the void would instantly arrive. What if the opponent is strong enough to kill us in an instant? Dongbu Shuiying asked. If we die instantly, the communication bracelets will lose its owner, and will automatically send the location to Xia People's Xian Hua. We will also immediately kill our way over. Qiu Qibai said. Thus, in the mortal world, in the infernal world, there would normally not be any danger. Unless the opponent carries the risk of starting a war with the 6 great organizations and insists on killing you. Such a reckless thing rarely happens, even I have not met with it before. Dongbu Shuiying heaved a sigh of relief. In terms of position and importance, Qiu Qibai was much higher than him. If the Sorcerer God Palace and the demonic faction wanted to kill a threat, they would probably have to target Qiu Qibai first. But the communication bracelets are unable to send messages outside of a world. Naturally, the world space has an isolating effect. Qiu Qibai said, only after countless years of operation in the infernal world can we naturally communicate with the outside world. But the other transcendent worlds, regardless of whether they are large or small worlds, are all isolated from the outside world. The outside world is unable to contact you. You are also unable to contact the outside world. Thus, entering a transcendent world is very dangerous. On one hand, the aboriginals of the transcendent world hate us. On the other hand, if the sorcerer god palace and the demonic faction were to meet you in such a transcendent world, they would most likely kill you. Under such circumstances, being unable to contact the outside world is extremely dangerous. Qiu Qibai said, in the transcendent world, there are times when some of the transcendents from the 6 great organizations would kill you out of greed. After all, being unable to contact the outside world, as long as you do not expose yourself, no one would know. Qiu Qibai looked at Dongbua Shuiying and said, fortunately, before stepping into the saint rank, other than the infernal world, transcendents are forbidden from entering other transcendent worlds. Understood. Dongbua Shuiying nodded his head. In terms of safety, the 6 great organizations had clearly considered it carefully. When are you going to the Water Taoist faction? Qiu Qibai asked. I have just escaped from the Black Wind Abyss and have just reunited with my parents. I plan to stay here for a few more days, probably within a month. Then I will depart for the Water Taoist faction. Dongbua Shuiying said. Alright, then I won't be staying here any longer. The location of the Water Taoist faction is shown on the map inside the communication wristband. When the time comes, you should hurry over. Qiu Qibai stood up. Tanshur also smiled and said, Dongbua Shuiying, cultivate well and step into the saint rank as soon as possible. That way, we will be able to explore the transcendent world side by side. I will definitely do my best. Dongbua Shuiying also stood up to send them off. Hoo-hoo. Qiu Qibai and Tanshur quickly broke through the sky and disappeared into the horizon. Lord Yihong, who had been standing by the side, smiled and said, Congratulations, Sir Dongbua. Since Sir Dongbua has joined the Water Taoist faction, then Azure River County will naturally be under the control of the Dongbua clan. Since the Dongbua clan does not have enough manpower, our Dragon Mountain Manor will be at your disposal. In the entire Azure River County, the Sea Clan, Zhang Clan and other legend-ranked clans that dare to disobey us will be killed and captured. The Sea Clan has too many claws and teeth in Azure River County, occupying too many official positions. This is a huge obstacle for the Dongbua clan to control Azure River County. Now, I will immediately arrange for the Sea Clan to be chased away. Our Dragon Mountain Manor will temporarily send someone to take over. In the future, the Dongbua clan can always send someone to take over. Actually, our Dragon Mountain Manor is the most straightforward in carrying out orders. Alright. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. In terms of mundane matters, the Dragon Mountain Manor would handle them very cleanly, resolving the worries of the transcendents. Chapter 97. Then I'll take my leave. Lord Dongbua can give me any instructions through the communication wristband. Lord Yihong said. Then I'll have to trouble Lord Yihong. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. This is what our Dragon Mountain Manor should do. As for Azure River County, I'll make arrangements now. Within 3 days, everything will be ready. After that, I'll send a detailed list of names to Lord Dongbua. Furthermore, I'll also establish a branch of Dragon Mountain Manor at the foot of Snowrock Mountain to listen to the orders of the Dongbua clan. Lord Yihong said with a smile. Good. Dongbua Shuiying was very satisfied. Dragon Mountain Manor was indeed very considerate in handling matters. Following which, Yihong turned into a ray of light and flew away. Noon. Snowrock Castle. In the dining hall of the castle, a family was gathered together for a meal. Dongbua Shuiying enjoyed the joy of a family reunion. For this day he had been longing for and struggling for too long. Oh yes, father, mother, Azure River County will be taken over by our clan. Dongbua Shuiying said. Will take over? Then what about the Sea Clan? Dongbua Lai wasn't afraid. After all, he had risked his life on the line too many times. Furthermore, he managed the entire Snow Eagle territory in an orderly manner. If he really wanted to take over, he would definitely be able to. That's right, brother. The Sea Clan has deep roots in our Azure River County. They have people in almost every industry. Qing Shi said. Dongbua Shuiying shook his head. Deep roots? That's a joke in front of transcendence. In the past, Our Azure River County didn't have any transcendence. That's why the Sea Clan could gradually infiltrate and control the entire Azure River County. Now that I've become a transcendent, according to the rules of the Water Taoist faction, Azure River County will naturally be under the control of our Dongbua clan. This is the rule of the Water Taoist faction. Other transcendents can't stop it. Dongbua Shuang said. Within 3 days, many government positions in Azure River County will be taken over by the people of Dragon Mountain Manor. Furthermore, they will establish a branch of Dragon Mountain Manor at the foot of Snowrock Mountain to listen to Father's orders. Father, when you have the right people, you can order someone to take over at any time. The people from Dragon Mountain Manor are just passing through. Dongbua Shuang said casually. To him, these mortal powers were meaningless. Transcendents had very long lifespans. In the beginning, they would have more entanglements with mortals, but as time went on, they would have fewer and fewer entanglements with mortals. There were even some transcendents who were so selfish that they didn't care about mortals at all and joined the demon faction. Dongbua Shuang did not care much about other people. However, he still cared about his family. At the very least, he would try his best to let his family live a better life while they were still alive. Haha Dongbua. Zhongling smiled and said, when we risked our lives together, did you think that you would have such a day like this? He will become the first marquis of a 1,000-year-old transcendent family. How could I have imagined it? I wouldn't even dare to dream about it. Dongbo laughed. Dongbua Shuang suddenly looked outside the door. Rumble, under the power of heaven and earth, the doors of the dining hall closed. The Dongbua couple, Qing Shi and the rest were all stunned as they looked at Dongbua Shuang in confusion. Why did he suddenly close the doors? Dongbua Shuang waved his hand and 5 large wine vats appeared on the floor. Snow Eagle, what is this? Tong San asked curiously. This is a type of transcendent spiritual liquid. Dongbua Shuang said. Every wine vat contains more than 150 gene of transcendent spiritual liquid. It is enough for a transcendent to drink for 10 years. The endurance of a mortal's body is weaker. Under normal circumstances, it is enough for a mortal to drink for 100 years. Mo Yangyu was shocked. Snow Eagle, is this the same spiritual liquid you gave me to drink? She had drunk it before, so she was very clear about the miraculous effects of this spiritual liquid. It could make up for the many flaws in her body and even heal the injuries to her soul. How miraculous was this? In her opinion, any bottle of this spiritual liquid would be worth a sky-high price. Could heal injuries to the soul. Ah. That's right. Dongbua Shuang said. This is too precious. Snow Eagle, we use it too. Mo Yangyu wanted to stop him. I still have more. Dongbua Shuang said. This is beneficial to your cultivation. I don't lack this. This kind of transcendent spiritual liquid is indeed precious. To avoid trouble, you must not tell anyone, especially Qing Shi. No matter how close you are to him, you must not leak this information to anyone. If you really want to give it to others, just say that I gave it to you. Do not let others know that you have so much of it. Brother, don't worry. I'm not that stupid. Qing Shi laughed. Dongbua Shuang nodded his head. This spiritual liquid was very beneficial to transcendent cultivators. To mortals, it was even more shocking. Actually, the spiritual liquid in these 5 wine vats could only be used by transcendents for 50 years. It was worth around 1,500 gene of origin stones. Normally, even if his brother revealed a little and gave some to important people, it would not even be worth half a gene of origin stones. With Dongbua Shuang's status as a transcendent, it was just a small matter. The amount of spiritual liquid from the stone of oceanic world was not much. The amount was shocking. That piece of stone of oceanic world was enough for a transcendent to use for 1,000 years. It was worth around 30,000 gene of origin stones. It was much more valuable than Dongbua Shuang's Saint Great Inner Armor and the pile of origin stones. Even a demigod would be tempted by it. That was why Elder Leijun left behind an array before his death. He would rather destroy it than let the demonic beasts take advantage of it. Shuang also hoped that his family members could live for a longer period of time. Snowrock Mountain was very peaceful. However, the Azure River County City was in a state of turmoil. From the county lord to the officers of the city guards, everyone was kicked out. What is your Dragon Mountain Manor doing? You are making an enemy out of my Sea clan and the Water Taoist faction behind us. Lord Sea, if you resist, we can only kill you. What are you doing? Go back and ask your Sea clan's ancestor. When the Dragon Mountain Manor revealed their fangs, the Sea clan's so-called deep-rooted power was completely uprooted. At the same time when the Dragon Mountain Manor acted, the Water Taoist faction also sent a message to the legend rankers of Azure River County, telling them, Dongbo Shuang has become a transcendent and will join my Water Taoist faction. Azure River County will be under the control of the Dongbo clan. In terms of seniority, Si Lianghong and the other legend rankers were all disciples of the Water Taoist faction. Dongbo Shuang was a protector. He was a whole generation higher than them. The Imperial Alchemy Workshop in the county city. This was the largest alchemy workshop in the entire Azure River County. There were a large number of mages researching and working here. It was simply a city within a city. Many of the terrifying tools used by the army were supplied here. In one of the laboratories, the handsome mage Si-chan was conducting some experiments while Kong Yu was watching from the side. Yu, do you see it? This is the problem with your previous spell model. It's too trivial. The more perfect the spell model is, the closer it is to nature. Si-chan taught from the side. Actually, when you study the spell model, look at it yourself first. If you feel that it's not natural enough, then there's usually a problem. Even if it can be used, the efficiency will be very low. Si-chan, you're really amazing. Yu said in admiration. Si-chan was very satisfied. He rubbed his head. Try modifying it again. Yu immediately started experimenting. Some of the materials were directly used. The Sea clan was able to place people into the Empire's army. They could also place a genius mage like Si-chan into the Imperial Alchemy Workshop. This kind of workshop had the most abundant materials for experiments. With Si-chan's status, he could experiment as much as he wanted. If it was within the Sea clan, the materials used would still be very painful. But in the Imperial Alchemy Workshop, if it was used up, then so be it. With Si-chan's help, Yu also entered the Imperial Alchemy Workshop. She could experiment as much as she wanted. Her strength improved very quickly. As early as 2 years ago, she had already become a heaven-ranked mage. Until now, Yu still maintained a vague relationship with Si-chan. In Yu's words, we are still young. Let's study spells first. Always like this. Pung. Suddenly, the outside door was pushed open. There's an experiment here. Si-chan looked outside angrily. It was taboo to disturb someone during an experiment. 2 old mages walked in. One of them was a black-robed mage. Mage Si-chan, from today onwards, you must leave the Imperial Alchemy Workshop. Why? Si-chan was stunned. There's no why. The black-robed mage looked at Yu who was beside Si-chan. Mage Yu, you must also leave. Yu was a little confused. Her days here were so comfortable. She could use any materials she wanted. She also knew many powerful mages in Azure River County. This was the place where most mages gathered. Using materials so casually, do you think anyone can? The other red-robed mage sneered. You must leave before nightfall. Otherwise, we can only expel you by force. Very soon, Si-chan, Yu and the other 12 mages of the Sea clan were all driven out of the Imperial Alchemy Workshop. If they had the ability to bring benefits to the Imperial Alchemy Workshop, they would still be invited to stay. But Si-chan and the others were here to take advantage of them. Although Si-chan was a genius mage, refining alchemy items required experience, patience, and a long time. Si-chan was here for cultivation. He wasted countless materials in his experiments. How could he waste time to make alchemy items? In the past, he had the help of the Sea clan. But now, with a single order from the Dragon Mountain Manor, they were all kicked out. Si-chan, what's wrong? What happened? Yu was at a loss. Even Si-chan, the pride of the Sea clan, was driven out. Even the mages of the Sea clan were driven out. Did the Sea clan lose their power? Nothing. Si-chan was also a little uneasy. Yu was even more worried. After leaving the Imperial Alchemy Workshop, the Sea clan should continue to nurture Si-chan. But what about her? How could the Sea clan nurture her? The Sea clan can cover the sky with one hand in Azure River County. How could they be driven out? What happened? Yu panicked. Chapter 98. On the same night, a piece of news spread like wildfire throughout the Azure River County, quickly spreading to the rest of the country. This news was, Azure River County's water rights town Snow Eagle Territories Lord, Dongbu Shuiying, had become a transcendent. Countless people were shocked. Many people in the Azure River County cheered, and many restaurants and pubs were discussing this matter. Everyone was proud that their hometown had a transcendent. Regardless of where one was in the Dragon Mountain Empire, there were many people who liked to hear about transcendence. A certain transcendent pretended to be an old beggar, and a powerful family's playboy bullied the old beggar, and then, the family was finished. Then by chance he met a transcendent who did not reveal his identity. From then on he rose to the top. In short, in the legends transcendents were related to various fortuitous encounters, big clans, demons from the dark abyss, terrifying beasts, or even gods. Our Azure River County also has a transcendent. I knew it. Dongbu Shuiying was able to kill Xiang Pangyun at the age of 22. If he lived, he would definitely become a transcendent. Look how many years has it been. Even the Black Wind Abyss could not stop a transcendent. It is said that Dongbu Shuiying has been practicing the spear since he was young. His spear techniques are profound, and he already had the strength of a Silver Moon Knight at the age of 15. You underestimate Dongbu Shuiying too much. He killed Xiang Pangyun at the age of 22. I'm afraid he already has the strength of a legend ranker at the age of 15. Many stories spread, and the more they spread, the more exaggerated they became. In fact, this was very normal. Stories about transcendence had always been mysterious. On the morning of the second day, a refiner flying ship landed at the foot of Snowrock Mountain, and a group of people walked up. We are legend rankers from the Azure River County. We are here to seek an audience with Lord Dongbu Shuiying. 6 silhouettes stood at the entrance of the castle, all of them being legend rankers. The one in the lead was the alluring woman with long red hair, Si Liang Hong. Si Liang Hong had the body of a blood demon, and her charm was extremely astonishing. Even the ordinary guards at the entrance of the castle felt their bodies heating up. But when they heard Si Liang Hong's words, they were shocked. All of them were legend rankers? In just a short moment, Si Liang Hong and the other 5 were allowed to enter. His lordship is over there. A maid led the way. Si Liang Hong's group of 6 saw 2 people sitting under a pavilion in the distance. One of them was extraordinarily handsome, and could be considered a dragon among men. As for the other black-robed youth, he looked ordinary, but all 6 of them were one with the world. They could faintly sense the invisible pressure coming from the black-robed youth, causing their hearts to palpitate with fear. Greetings, Protector. Si Liang Hong and the other 5 bowed respectfully. Dongbu Shuiying turned to look at him. What's the matter? The leader, Si Liang Hong, respectfully said, We have already received an order from the Water Taoist faction. From today onwards, the Azure River County will be under the control of the Protector's clan. If there's anything the Dongbu family needs us to do, just let us know. Understood. Dongbu Shuiying nodded his head. Protector. Si Liang Hong's voice suddenly became soft. Through the power of the heavens and earth, it resounded in Dongbu Shuiying's ears. Our Si family has a girl called Kong Yu. I heard that she and Protector are old friends. How do you want to deal with this girl? Dongbu Shuiying's growth, Si Liang Hong was very clear about it. In the past she didn't care about Kong Yu. But now she didn't dare to act recklessly. She didn't dare to support her, but she also didn't dare to execute her. Yu? Dongbu Shuiying thought of this little girl. Yu was a scheming girl. In the past, she had angered him to no end. The reason why he was so angry was because Kong Yu had lived in Snowrock Castle for more than 6 years. He had watched her grow up. Although there was no love between them, there was still a friendship between them. But who would have thought that everything was just a lie? Let nature take its course. Dongbu Shuiying said. Let nature take its course? Si Liang Hong didn't dare to ask anymore. Very soon Si Liang Hong and the rest left. Dongbu Shuiying didn't have much to say to them. They were here to show their attitude. As for gifts, to give a gift to a transcendent? What a joke. Brother, the leader is Si Liang Hong. Is she a few hundred years old? Qing Shi whispered. Just now he was quite nervous and excited. She has transformed into a blood demon body. She has a lifespan of 800 years. Donghua Shuiying said. Qingshi, let me ask you again. Do you really want to go to Eternal Wind Academy? And Qingshi nodded. Mages still need a teacher to guide them. I really want to walk further on the path of a mage. Actually, when you fell into the Black Wind Abyss, I regretted not cultivating properly. At that time, I understood that external forces are useless. My own strength is the foundation. I want to grasp more. That feeling of powerlessness, he never wanted to experience it again. All right. Donghua Shuiying nodded. He agreed with him. Father and mother just came back. You should accompany them for a few months. It won't be too late to go to Eternal Wind Academy. At that time, I will help you arrange for a transcendent mage to teach you. And thank you, brother. Qingshi nodded. He didn't want to rely on his own strength to find a teacher. To have a transcendent as a teacher, he was very willing. The matter of his brother going to Eternal Wind Academy was quickly known by Donghua Lai and his wife. They were also very reluctant. However, they had often risked their lives in the past. They were quite open-minded. They also understood that going to Eternal Wind Academy was very beneficial to their son. Moreover, it wasn't immediately. It was a matter of a few months later. Moreover, they could go to Eternal Wind Academy to see Qingshi. Far away. With the refiner flying ship, it wasn't far at all. Shuiying left behind many gold notes and other items left behind by Xiang Pengyun to his parents. That time, the gold notes within Xiang Pengyun's storage treasure had been piled up into a small pile. This beast clan assassin who enjoyed slaughtering had accepted missions from the Bloodshed Tavern time after time, earning a huge amount of gold coins. After many years of accumulating and perhaps spending on other aspects, he had left behind a total of more than 8 million gold coins. It was very exaggerated. In the entire Azure River County, perhaps only the Sea Clan could compare to him. Time passed day by day. Donghua Shuiying accompanied his parents. After all, once he went to Water Daoist faction, he would soon have to go to the Infernal World. If he went to the Infernal World, he wouldn't be able to return for a few years. This made Donghua Lai and his wife quite reluctant. After reuniting, the two sons wanted to go their separate ways. Since their youngest son was at Eternal Wind Academy, they could at least visit him. But since Donghua Shuiying was going to the Infernal World, they couldn't go. A refiner flying ship landed at the foot of Snowrock Mountain. From the flying ship, a large group of people walked out. The one leading them was the silver-robed woman, Mo Yang Qi. Behind her was a group of Mo Yang clan elders and other elites. All of them were extremely nervous. They looked at the winding mountain road and at the faintly discernible castle at the top of the mountain. Mo Yang Qi took a deep breath. The hearts of the others were beating wildly. The time to decide the fate of our Mo Yang clan has arrived. Mo Yang Qi tried to calm her nerves and ordered, "Go, follow me up the mountain." Everyone obediently walked up the mountain. Chapter 99. In front of the castle's main building. Donghua Lai and his wife stared at a group of people walking over. "Brother, what do you think father and mother will do? Will they let the Mo Yang clan off so easily?" Qingshi, who was standing at the side, asked quietly. "Since we promised father and mother to let them handle it, we don't need to worry about it." As Shuiying looked on, he suddenly frowned. The silver-robed woman, Mo Yang Qi, was walking at the very front. Behind her was a group of clan elders, and there was a gray-robed man. He was none other than his uncle, Mo Yang Chan, whom he had met when he was young. Mo Yang Qi, lead the elders here to apologize to Marquis Donghua and his wife. Mo Yang Qi knelt down without hesitation. Hua! The group of elders behind her knelt down as well. This scene caused Donghua Shuiying's eyelids to twitch. No. Mo Yang Yu's expression changed. She immediately rushed over to help her brother. Mo Yang Chan, get up, get up. Donghua Lai also went over to help them up. Our Mo Yang clan indeed owes you and your wife. Mo Yang Qi did not get up. The elders behind her were still kneeling. No matter how Mo Yang Yu and Donghua Lai tried to pull them up, they remained kneeling. Humph! Followed by a cold snort. A surge of transcendent Do Qi formed a fan shape and appeared out of nowhere. It swept across Mo Yang Qi and the group of elders. However, it avoided Dongbua Lai and his wife. Peng, Mo Yangqi and the group of elders were all sent flying. Some fell on the ground, some hit the wall, and the weaker ones vomited blood on the spot. Mo Yangqi and the group of elders' expressions changed. They looked at the cold-faced Dongbua Shuiying in fear. Apologize. Kneel? Dongbua Shuiying sneered. What's the point of doing this? This is the dasi. Mo Yangqi reacted quickly. With a flip of her hand, she picked up a dossier and stood up. She respectfully presented it to Mo Yangyu. Wife Marquis, please take a look. Dossier? Mo Yangyu looked at Mo Yangqi with a complicated expression. This was the clan leader, the high and mighty clan leader of the past. Actually, Dongbua Lai, Dongbua Shuiying and the rest were all disgusted with the Mo Yang clan, but Mo Yangyu was the most conflicted. He flipped open the dossier and read it carefully. What a 1,000-year-old family. When Mo Yangyu saw this, her complexion turned ugly. All the branches and bloodlines are competing so ruthlessly. So there are so many reasons why my father died so early. 5,869 people, execute them. More than 20,000 people were convicted of serious crimes. Mo Yangyu flipped to the end and was somewhat shocked. What? Dongbua couldn't believe it. 5,000 people were executed and 20,000 people were convicted? Qingshi was shocked. Even Dongbua Shuiying was shocked. This was too ruthless. This was because the entire Mo Yang clan, including the guards and servants, only had about 100,000 people. As for those who could be convicted, if they were servants or guards, they would be relatively close to the master. The large-scale guards of the clan usually wouldn't get involved. Excluding the large-scale guards, the entire clan only had about 50 to 60,000 people. Killing 30,000 people? So ruthless. Actually, this kind of internal strife within a large clan was very common. Once it was discovered, it would implicate many people. This time, the Mo Yang clan wanted to quench Dongbua Shuiying's anger, and also wanted to use this opportunity to reorganize the clan. They wanted to get rid of many malignant tumors. In the past, even the clan leader wouldn't act so recklessly. But this time, the clan leader was holding the banner of quenching the anger of transcendence, so naturally, he would cut the Gordian knot. Of the 5,800 people who were killed, over 3,000 had no relationship with Mo Yangyu, or it could be said that their relationship was very shallow. The 20,000 people who were convicted were all thugs and guards. They were all subordinates who had been purged and were directly sentenced to hard labor. Here is 10 million gold notes. Mo Yangqi then took out a thick stack of gold notes. Every single one of them was worth 100,000 gold coins. A total of 100 of them. To actually be able to take out so much. Dongbua Shuiying was also surprised. Xiang Pengyuan had left behind 8 million gold coins. Although the Xi clan might have a little more, their assets were not much. After all, the founder of the Mo Yang clan was a transcendent. A true transcendent. Therefore, the Mo Yang clan's foundation was very deep. But after 1,000 years, many of the family assets were fixed assets, such as gold refining workshops, territories, large castles, shops, and so on. To take out 10 million gold notes was also very difficult. Actually, this time the Mo Yang clan had killed many malignant tumors and seized their assets. Many of them were directly mortgaged to the empire's banks to obtain many gold notes. Then from the clan's treasury, they were able to gather 10 million gold coins. This was almost a third of the Mo Yang clan's assets. Moreover, the clan's elders have unanimously agreed to appoint Mo Yang Chun as the new clan leader. Mo Yangqi said, "Brother." Mo Yangyu was somewhat stunned. The corner of Dongbua Shuiying's mouth slightly curled upwards. Truly ruthless. Allowing his own uncle to become the clan leader, killing or convicting 30,000 members of the clan, and giving him 10 million gold coins. His mother and uncle were biological siblings after all, and their relationship was very deep. In the blink of an eye, it was time for Dongbua Shuiying to leave. Early morning. In the training grounds, Dongbua Shuiying was training his fists. The spear was an extension of his fists. Dongbua Shuiying loved to train his spear arts, but at the same time he also loved to train his fists. His body was as perfect as one. His strength circulated within his body, and every move he made was either retracted or released. Dongbua Shuiying stopped and let out a long breath. The surrounding air trembled for a moment before returning to normal. Snow Eagle, come. Drink some tea and eat some snacks. Seeing that Dongbu Shuang had stopped, Mo Yangyu called out. "In." Dongbu Shuang smiled as he walked over and drank the tea in one gulp. After that, he picked up the snacks and started eating. "Mother, the snacks you make are still the best. After so many years, I haven't eaten such delicious snacks since I was 8 years old. There are so many good chefs in the castle, but none of them can cook better than me?" Mo Yangyu laughed. "I'm not lying, there really isn't." Dongbu Shuang quickly finished the large plate of snacks. This month was too comfortable. Ever since he was 8 years old, he had been training his spear arts with all his might. After that, he fell into the Black Wind Abyss and stayed there alone for 6 years. The past month was like a dream to him. "You're leaving in the afternoon?" Mo Yangyu suddenly asked. "And yes, I'm leaving in the afternoon." Dongbu Shuang laughed. "If this goes on, I'm afraid I'll become a hedonistic young master." "Hedonistic young master will be hedonistic young master." Mo Yangyu was reluctant to part with her son. "I still want to walk further on the path of transcendence." Dongbu Shuang laughed as he reminisced about the past. "When I was young, I loved to read the biographies of transcendence. Looking at those transcendents, I would even dream of flying in the sky and burrowing into the ground, drinking with the gods and catching a few demons to play with. Now that I've stepped on this path, of course I have to work hard to walk further. This path is quite interesting." If it was said that in the past 20 years, he didn't dare to slack off because he wanted to save his parents. But now, it was because of his heart's desire. Furthermore, there was another reason that he didn't say. When he saw the Sea clan and the other clans bowing their heads, when he saw the Mo Yang clan kneeling down, Dongbu Shuang swore that he would definitely not let his family fall to such a state. "Big brother Chongfeng and the others all have high hopes for me. I'm the youngest transcendent in 1,000 years. If I continue to decline like this, I'm afraid I'll become the biggest joke in the eyes of all the transcendents in Dragon Mountain Empire." Dongbu Shuang laughed. That afternoon, after lunch, Qing Shi, Dongbu Lai couple, Zhongling and Tong San stood at the entrance of the castle to send Dongbu Shuang off. "There's no need to send me off. If there's anything, you can contact me through the communication wristband." Dongbu Shuang smiled. "That's all, I'll be leaving now." "Brother, I'll definitely become a transcendent too," Qing Shi suddenly shouted. Dongbu Shuang was stunned. Zhongling, Tong San, and Dongbu Lai couple all laughed. "Good, you're ambitious." Dongbu Shuang also laughed. "Qing Shi, I'll be waiting for you." Qing Shi nodded. "Who?" Following that, Dongbu Shuang's body was bathed in the light of the flames. He looked at his family members and grinned. Then he soared into the sky and flew towards the north, disappearing into the horizon. End of this chapter. Chapter 100. Surrounded by flames, Dongbu Shuang flew towards the north at high speed. At the same time, he looked down at the scenery below. The further north he flew, the lower the temperature became. The number of cities and villages on the ground also became fewer and fewer. A piece of pure white. The vast northern snow plains appeared in his field of vision. The 5 northern provinces were all connected to the snow plains. The northern snow plains was extremely vast, spanning hundreds of thousands of li. There were no traces of humans here, but there were some unique beasts living in the snow plains. Rumble, a group of gigantic beasts the size of a small mountain, was galloping. Snow plains white mammoths? Dongbu Shuang flew in the sky and looked down. The group of gigantic beasts were at least 10 meters tall. Their forehooves were extremely thick and their fur was thick and long. Even if the Silver Moon Knights attacked with all their might, it would be hard for them to pierce through this thick layer of fur. Not to mention the thick layer of fat beneath the fur. It was almost impossible for a Silver Moon Knight to kill a Snow Plains white mammoth. And they loved to live in groups. When a large group of Snow Plains white mammoths galloped, even a legend knight would not dare to face them head-on. The human army would be easily crushed. These Snow Plains white mammoths are quite docile. Dongbu Shuang smiled as he looked at them. Because they were docile, they were easily tamed. Some of the cruel beasts in the Great Snow Plains had already been killed by the humans. As he flew, the further north he went, the colder the wind became like knives. Water Taoist faction. Dongbua Shuiying's eyes lit up. After flying for 120,000 li, he finally reached his destination. The Great Snow Plains also had a chain of tall mountains. On one of the mountains that stretched for thousands of li, there was a Taoist faction. South Dongbua Shuiying turned into a ray of light and descended from the sky, landing at the entrance of the Taoist faction. Protector Dongbua. A deep voice sounded. Dongbua was slightly startled. The entire Taoist temple was made of dark gray metal. There were meandering carvings on the walls of the Taoist temple. On the left side of the Taoist temple there was a strange bird carving, and on the right side there was a giant dragon carving. At that moment the dragon carving on the right side was speaking, and its mouth was still moving. Dongbua Shuiying was also startled. This was obviously not an alchemy creature. It was just a pattern. Haha, Protector Dongbua, a ray of light flew out from the Taoist temple and appeared at the entrance of the Taoist temple. It was a handsome man with a divine sword on his back. Our entire Water Taoist temple is an assembly-type semi-divine artifact. As for Senior Dragon and Senior Sparrow, they are both artifact spirits that have existed since the establishment of this Taoist temple. Greetings Senior Dragon, Senior Sparrow. Dongbua Shuiying bowed respectfully. At the same time he was secretly surprised. According to what he knew, under normal circumstances, only divine artifacts would have artifact spirits. Demigod artifacts almost never had an artifact spirit. As for the importance of divine artifacts to the Xia people, it was even more important than the birth of a deity. That was because those deities who had just broken through did not know how to refine divine artifacts. The divine artifacts that the Xia people currently possessed were all passed down from the deity world or the dark abyss. Brat, train properly. I have made a bet with the old dragon that you will become a saint within 50 years, Senior Sparrow said. Don't give the youngsters any pressure. As long as you can break through within 100 years, it would already be an amazing feat, Senior Dragon added. Seniors, I still need to guide Protector Dongbua. I will not disturb you any further, the handsome man said. He then brought Dongbua Shuiying into the Taoist temple. The inside of the Taoist temple was rather peaceful. The mountain path was winding, and the ground was covered with snow. Occasionally, there would be small courtyards on both sides of the Taoist temple. Whenever they saw Dongbua Shuiying, they would respectfully bow. My name is Gongliang Yuan, and I have just become a saint. The handsome man smiled. This Taoist temple is a quiet place for training. At most, there are only legend rankers here. Normally, there would be hundreds of legend rankers training here. Normally, only when they feel that they cannot improve any further would they return home. As for transcendence, most saints and demigods would stay in the Taoist temple to train. As for Sky Realm transcendence, there are very few of them in the Taoist temple. They are either in the infernal realm or the mortal world. Before the age of 500, most transcendents would be very attached to the mortal world. However, as time passes, they would rarely move about in the mortal world. Gongliang Yuan said, "This is your first time coming to the Taoist temple. To you, the most important thing is to choose a Douqi technique and secret technique. Also, there are transcendent weapons and origin stones." Entering the secluded Taoist temple, Dongbua Shuiying was led by Gongliang Yuan to collect the 600 kilograms of origin stones, following which, he went to choose a Douqi technique. Brother Dongbua, for normal transcendence regardless of origin stones, techniques, secret techniques, weapons etc., they all require transcendent contribution points to exchange for them. Gongliang Yuan exclaimed, thinking back then I would risk my life to accept transcendent missions. Sometimes I would even risk my life to obtain transcendent contribution points. After which, I would have to count on my fingers to exchange for techniques and secret techniques. Compared to other transcendents, Brother Dongbua, you indeed have a lot of resources. I am ashamed, Dongbua Shuiying said. There is nothing to be ashamed of. These resources were actually obtained by saints and even demigods risking their lives to obtain them. It is impossible for every ordinary transcendent to obtain a pile of resources. To obtain them, you can only exchange them with your own contribution points. Only an extremely small number of absolute geniuses like you, Brother Dongbua, would be able to directly obtain resources to groom them. Gongliang Yuan said. Dongbua Shuiying was very clear. Origin stones had to be obtained from the transcendent world. And to risk one's life in the transcendent world, one had to at least have the strength of a saint. Saints could only obtain large amounts of origin stones by risking their lives. Douqi Pavilion. It was a very ordinary wooden pavilion with 3 floors. Dongbu Shuiying went in to look for a suitable douqi technique for himself. Douqi techniques were very important, because with them, one would be able to increase one's cultivation speed, allowing one's douqi to reach godhood. But it was not important. Every transcendent would choose the best douqi technique. Under the circumstances where transcendent contribution points were scarce, they would rather exchange for it step by step. First, he would exchange for the sky tier technique. Then, he would exchange for the saint tier technique after he reached saint tier. There are only 2 types of god tier flame douqi: Starfire douqi and Fire Dragon douqi. Dongbu Shuiying flipped through and pondered. He could choose any douqi technique regardless of the price. Which one should I choose? Fire Dragon douqi is more ferocious. Starfire douqi is more balanced. Dongbu Shuiying thought for a while and made his decision. I will choose Starfire douqi. Choosing a douqi technique was relatively simple. After all, techniques were meant to be cultivated. As for combat, it depended on one's technique, experience, level, weapon, secret techniques, etc. Technique, experience, and level were all internal and needed to be slowly accumulated. But weapons and secret techniques could be chosen. The reason why there were so many transcendents joining the Temple of the Earth God and Bloodshed Tavern was because they had god-tier secret techniques. Brother Dongbua, you have to think carefully before choosing a weapon and secret technique. Gong Liangyuan said, you can only choose one secret technique. In the future, the other secret techniques will have to be exchanged for with transcendent contribution points. So you have to think carefully. Otherwise, it would be too late for regrets. I know. Dongbu Shuiying was also very cautious. Should we choose a weapon or a secret technique first? Gong Liangyuan asked. Let's choose a weapon first. It's easier to choose a weapon than a secret technique. After all, secret techniques are the most important. Dongbu Shuiying said. In terms of external factors, secret techniques had the greatest impact on one's strength. It was even more important than a weapon. A god-tier secret technique and an ordinary secret technique would cause 2 transcendents who were on the same level in other aspects to have a difference in strength of 10 times. They could be killed in a single move. From this, one could see how precious secret techniques were. Even if Dongbu Shuiying couldn't obtain a god-tier secret technique, he still wanted to choose one that was close to it. This way, the gap between him and the Temple of the Earth God, Bloodshed Tavern, and demonic faction would be as small as possible. Of course, secret techniques also needed to be studied. If one obtained a god-tier secret technique, they would only be at the entry level. For a weaker secret technique, others would have already cultivated it to an unimaginable level, completely suppressing those who cultivated a god-tier secret technique. But for the same person, the stronger the secret technique, the better. Returning to his hometown, the update was a bit late. Chapter 101. Inside the Water Taoist faction. Shuiying and Gong Liangyuan walked side by side until they arrived outside a large pavilion. Outside the pavilion was a lake, and by the side of the lake, there was a bald-headed, wizened old man fishing. This old man emitted an ancient aura. This is Vice Faction Head Chao Qing. Gong Liangyuan's expression changed and immediately transmitted. I was preparing to wait for you to choose your weapon and secret technique before meeting the Vice Faction Head. I didn't expect to meet him here. The Vice Faction Head is already 2,860 years old, and is very close to the end of his lifespan. It's him? Dongbu Shuiying was filled with respect. Demigod ranking number 9 Chao Qing. Water Taoist Faction's Vice Faction Head. Grasps the Thunder God's true meaning. A demigod's lifespan is only 3,000 years, and the limit represents the limit. Under normal circumstances, they would not be able to live to that limit. Mortals usually have a lifespan of 100 years, but in reality, living to 80 or 90 years is already not bad. For example, a star realm's lifespan is 200 years, but normally, living to 180 years is already very impressive. Transcendents are slightly more powerful, and can reach the limit. Elder Lei Zhan treated the stone of oceanic world's spiritual liquid as if it was food and water, constantly nourishing his soul and body, allowing him to live to 1,500 years old. Without the stone of oceanic world's spiritual liquid, his lifespan would be shortened by 100 years. A demigod would normally be able to live to 2,900 years old, and if they were heavily injured in a battle, they might die even earlier. Thus Vice Faction Head Chao Qing could die at any moment. Vice Faction Head Gong Liang Yuan said respectfully, "This is Dongbua Shuiying." "Greetings, Vice Faction Head." Dongbua Shuiying also bowed respectfully. Only then did the bald, skinny old man turn his head. His eyes looked turbid, and the skin on his face was full of wrinkles. His body was already very old, but no one in the world dared to look down on him. After all, this old man had not fought for too long, and no one knew his true strength. The demigod ranking number 9 was determined based on his last battle. "All right." The bald, skinny old man smiled and nodded. "This old man is able to see another monstrous genius from our Water Taoist faction before the end of my lifespan. I'm really happy. I still remember that when I was a legend ranker, I was also full of metal. When I joined the Water Taoist faction, it was Big Brother Zhongchun who led me there. But in the blink of an eye, Big Brother Zhongchun has already been dead for more than 2,000 years. Life and death. This old man has seen too many deaths." The bald, skinny old man chuckled. "There aren't many who can live longer than me." Dongbua Shuiying and Gong Liang Yuan listened obediently. To the 28-year-old Dongbua Shuiying, a demigod who had lived for close to 3,000 years, was practically a living piece of history. "Dongbua Shuiying," the bald old man suddenly said. "This junior is here." Dongbua Shuiying replied respectfully. "You are a newly advanced transcendent. You will definitely have to make a trip to the infernal world." The bald, skinny old man continued, "Sky Realm transcendents will experience the cruelty of transcendents fighting in the infernal world. Many transcendents will die there. To a monstrous genius like you, you have to be careful when you are still weak. Don't die in the infernal world at such a young age." "This junior understands," Dongbua Shuiying said gratefully. He was very clear about it. Because Sky Realm transcendents were forbidden from entering other transcendent worlds to adventure. In the mortal world, they would not meet with any danger. Most of the danger would be in the infernal world. For the sake of training, for the sake of life and death experiences, Sky Realm transcendents would often die. It wasn't that the transcendents were courting death. Rather, the effects of life and death experiences were good. For example, when Dongbua Shuiying fought with the Shadow Leopard, he immediately broke through to the realm of power as one. On the path of transcendence, cultivation was even harder. If one did not go through life and death experiences, it would be hard to walk far. Cultivating for 10 years through life and death experiences was much better than cultivating for 100 years. The moment one enters the infernal world, there will be a transcendent battle of life and death, specially prepared for new transcendents. This is something only new transcendents can participate in. The bald, skinny old man smiled. "This battle of life and death is watched by many Xia people experts, so it is relatively safe. Ever since the establishment of the infernal world, the transcendent battle of life and death has been held for countless years. The most powerful person in history was a demigod from 19 million years ago, Purgatory Knight Jieli. When he first became a transcendent, he had passed through a total of 11 battles. In the recent 10,000 years, the most powerful person was a girl called Dan Cheng'en. She had passed through 9 battles. Unfortunately, after she became a saint, she entered the transcendent world to adventure and died. Back then, I had also passed through 6 battles." The bald, skinny old man looked at Dongbua Shuiying. "Dongbua Shuiying, you have to win some glory for our Water Taoist faction. Go through 9 battles, 10 battles." Dongbua Shuiying muttered to himself. The vice faction head's requirements were really high. 9 battles, 10 battles? After reading Elder Lejian's memoirs, Dongbua Shuiying was very clear about the transcendent battle of life and death. This was something only new transcendents could enjoy. In order to let new transcendents have a detailed understanding of the battle, they would arrange for opponents to battle in a fixed area. Most of the opponents would be natives of the transcendent world. During the battle, there would be many experts watching, and there would also be demigods. Therefore, if there was any danger during the battle of life and death, the demigods would immediately lend a helping hand. Therefore, it was relatively safe. and a rare opportunity to familiarize with the natives of the transcendent world. However, after all, the transcendent battle of life and death was too fast. Sometimes, if a demigod was a step slower, they might not be able to help in time. On average, an unlucky transcendent would die in the transcendent battle of life and death every 200 to 300 years. For example, Elder Leijun had only passed through 5 battles. How many battles did Elder Chongfeng pass? Dongbu Shuang asked curiously. Qi Qiubai? He also passed through 6 battles. The bald, skinny old man laughed. When Qi Qiubai was at the Sky Realm, he wasn't too dazzling. Although he had become a transcendent at a young age, he had only grasped the profound mystery of wind of myriad existences, a very ordinary profound mystery. Furthermore, he rose to prominence later on, and actually grasped the heaven-defying true meaning of space cleavage. The transcendent battle of life and death can also show one's potential. Those who have passed through the battle of life and death, as long as they are alive, most of them would have high achievements. The bald, skinny old man said, however, those who have passed the battle of life and death, although most of them are not good, there would occasionally be those who rose to prominence later on. For example, the current number 1 Mountain Lord, he, back then, only managed to pass through 3 battles. Haha, don't learn from Mountain Lord he. Mountain Lord he is a mage, and he likes to immerse himself in research. Furthermore, the transcendent battle of life and death is the only safe chance for you to familiarize yourself with the natives of the transcendent world. You must grasp this opportunity well. The bald, skinny old man said, if you miss it, there won't be any more. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Junior understands. Go choose your weapon. There's no need to accompany this old man. The bald, skinny old man said, oh right, I can see that you should have awakened your primordial bloodline. When you are going to choose your secret technique, you can go to the innermost bookshelf on the 3rd floor of the Secret Techniques Pavilion and carefully flip through it. Dongbu Shuang's eyes lit up. Secret Techniques Pavilion, 3rd floor? The innermost bookshelf? Thank you, Vice Head. Dongbu Shuang respectfully said. The bald, skinny old man continued to squint his eyes, seemingly closing them but not closing them at the same time. Dongbu Shuang and Gong Yuan respectfully bowed and left. Brother Dongbo, the vice faction head really thinks highly of you. Gong Liang Yuan laughed in a low voice. Actually, we were discussing about you previously. We even placed a bet on how many rounds you could pass in the transcendent battle of life and death. We all felt that you could pass at least 6 rounds. I'm not confident myself. Dongbu Shuang casually replied. In his heart, he was worried about the 3rd floor of the Secret Techniques Pavilion that the vice head mentioned. What exactly was the vice head talking about? Chapter 102. The two of them walked to the front of the weapon pavilion. Go in and choose, I'll wait for you here. Gong Liang Yuan stood outside the door. All right. Dongbu Shuang walked in. Just like the Doqi pavilion from before, this huge pavilion that contained all the weapons had no guards. The reason why there was no guard was because the entire Water Taoist Temple was a demigod weapon. The weapon spirits, Senior Dragon and Senior Sparrow, could completely control this place. No one would be able to sneak away or forcefully take away the weapons. Weapons are an extension of one's limbs. They are the most important companions in battle. Dongbu Shuang was very clear that a good weapon and a bad weapon would have a huge impact on one's strength. Dongbu Shuang walked briskly. Very quickly, he arrived at the area where the spears were placed. Lightning Rush Spear, Mortal Low Grade. 500 Origin Stones to exchange. Dongbu Shuang looked at the green spear that was stabbed into the ground. There was a metal plate on the ground with a simple introduction. He casually picked it up and played with it. Hu Qi. With a swing of the spear, it slashed through the air. Following that, he stabbed with one hand. The spear spun and tore through the air, but it was unable to damage the ordinary-looking building. Mortal Low Grade is the worst type of transcendent weapon. I feel that it's not even as perfect as my Feishua God Spear in terms of power transfer. It's just that it's made of transcendent materials, it's so lousy. Dongbu Shuang secretly shook his head. This was probably the work of a transcendent who failed while trying to refine a weapon. Transcendent weapons were not necessarily better than mortal weapons. Even a peak grade 3 alchemist weapon would cost more than 1,000,000 gold coins. In terms of price, it was not any less than a mortal low-grade transcendent weapon. To mortals, it was far more practical. Even a newly advanced transcendent would not bother with a mortal low-grade weapon. This was a failed attempt. Most of them would get a mortal high-grade weapon. Being able to get a mortal high-grade weapon was already very extravagant. As he walked, he picked up a spear and experimented. And the power transfer is perfect, just that the spear shaft is slightly soft. Dongbu Shuiying's current physical strength had reached the middle phase of the sky rank, and the Feishua God spear was also slightly soft to him. This spear TSK, it's a bit too long. It's not very suitable. Dongbu Shuiying had been practicing spear arts for more than 20 years. If it was said that some women love jewelry, then he would also be very excited when he held a spear. He could feel the uniqueness of each spear. For so many years, he had never tried so many good spears to his heart's content. For a full hour, he mainly checked the human tier top-grade spears. Mortal tier long spears usually cost between 5 to 10 kilograms of origin stones. The Water Taoist faction allowed me to pick any weapon or treasure that didn't exceed 80 kilograms of origin stones. That should be enough for me to gather a full set of mortal tier top-tier treasures. Dongbu Shuiying muttered to himself. Clothes, armor, boots, weapons, storage bracelets, etc. A full set of mortal tier top-quality equipment would cost 80 kilograms of origin stones. However, if I'm going to make one, I'll make one of the better ones. Dongbu Shuiying's gaze landed on the Saint-tier weapons. Saint-tier low-grade weapons were usually priced around 50 kilograms of origin stones. Although the price had skyrocketed, there was still a qualitative difference between a mortal tier transcendent weapon and a Saint-tier transcendent weapon. Mortal tier top-quality weapons and Saint-tier low-grade weapons. The difference in strength could be 30 to 40%. For a new transcendent like me, a Saint-tier low-grade weapon is more than enough. Dongbu Shuiying made his decision. He already had a bracelet of holding. The inner armor was a Saint-tier top-quality inner armor left behind by Elder Lei Zhan. After all, he had grasped the profound mystery of the water of myriad creations. Therefore, as for clothes, since he already had a good inner armor, any mortal tier top-quality clothes would suffice. As for the spear and boots, Dongbu Shuiying felt that he should choose a good one. A moment later, a spear was picked by Dongbu Shuiying. Boom! It was a black spear. The body of the spear seemed to be made out of a special type of transcendent wood. There were even dark red patterns on the wood. If one were to sense it carefully, one would be able to hear the faint roar of a dragon. A casual swing of the spear would produce a thunderous sound. Black dragon spear. Dragon blood watering? Dongbu Shuiying grinned. This spear weighs around 600 kilograms. It is more suitable for my spear arts. Some spears looked blurry to the naked eye. When used, they were like phantoms. Some spears were suitable for thrusting with extreme speed. Dongbu Shuiying had been tempted by other spears before. But now that he had grasped the profound mystery of the water and fire of myriad creations, he faintly felt that his path was the path of yin and yang. Going to the extremes might produce a miraculous effect when facing an opponent of the same level. But when facing an extremely powerful enemy, going to the extremes would mean that one's other aspects would be lacking. If one couldn't kill the enemy, it would be easy for the enemy to kill him. The name is indeed evil and domineering. However, this spear is indeed very good. Dongbu Shuiying casually swung the spear, and the spear shaft spun and stabbed out. The resulting shockwaves slammed into the walls of the pavilion. Ripples appeared on the surface of the walls, easily dissipating the impact. After all, those who came to choose a weapon would usually give it a try. But it costs 60 kilograms of origin stones? Dongbu Shuiying looked at the price tag. This Saint-tier low-grade spear had already exceeded the free price that the Water Taoist faction had set for him. Let's choose another pair of boots. Dongbu Shuiying placed great importance on boots. Some transcendents might use leg techniques during battle, but Dongbu Shuiying placed great importance on flexibility. In close combat, flexibility was extremely important. Those with low flexibility would be forced into a passive position. As for those with high flexibility, they would be able to toy with their opponents in the palm of their hands. Even if they encountered an enemy, they would have a higher chance of escaping. I'll choose this. The dark blue leather boots were made from the skin of a transcendent beast and some metals. There were very dark inscriptions on the boots, and the power of the wind could not be seen unless one looked closely. Fluttering boots. Dongbu Shuang put on the boots and tried them out. A formless flow of energy could be felt in the surroundings. The high-speed airflow generated by his footsteps would be guided, greatly reducing the air resistance. For transcendence, their movements were extremely fast, and the air resistance generated by their every movement was very shocking. For example, the high-pressure waves generated by a casual thrust of a spear or a whip were actually air resistance. When the air resistance was reduced, the speed and agility would naturally increase. Awesome! Dongbu Shuang revealed a joyful expression. After choosing the Saint Tier low-grade black dragon spear and the fluttering boots, Dongbu Shuang chose a mortal tier black robe, which also had the effect of reducing air resistance. After all, in terms of defense, the Saint Tier inner armor was too powerful. Good, I have enough. Dongbu Shuang revealed a joyful expression. Senior Dragon, Senior Sparrow, I have already chosen these three. Dongbu Shuang said. Brat, the Water Taoist faction can only give you 80 kilograms of origin stones for free, but these three items add up to 136 kilograms of origin stones. Senior Sparrow's clear voice resounded in the pavilion. Although you have origin stones, you should still use them to cultivate your battle chi. Battle chi is the foundation. Don't waste too much on external items. Although they can obviously increase your strength, they will not help you at all when you step into the Saint realm. I understand. Dongbu Shuang nodded. He had more than 3,000 kilograms of origin stones. The Water Taoist faction had given him another 600 kilograms, so he was very confident. Senior Sparrow, how much can this long rod be worth? Dongbu Shuang flipped his hand, and a scarlet long rod appeared in his hand. This was the Saint Tier low-grade long rod left behind by Elder Lei Zhan. Since he had no use for it, he might as well sell it to the Water Taoist faction. Buying weapons within one's own organization was the cheapest, and selling weapons was also the most worthwhile. Oh! A formless ripple swept past the scarlet long rod. This Saint Tier low-grade weapon, haha, I'll take it as 50 kilograms of origin stones. Senior Sparrow said. Looks like you had some fortuitous encounters. Including this long rod, you still need 26 kilograms of origin stones. Oh right, for every transcendent who breaks through, the Water Taoist faction will give you 50 contribution points. Each contribution point is equivalent to 1 kilogram of origin stones. Dongbu Shuang nodded. Of course he knew. The 50 contribution points given by the Water Taoist faction were normally used to exchange for weapons and secret techniques. Furthermore, such a small amount of contribution points could not be exchanged for anything too good. I'll add another 6 kilograms of origin stones, right? Dongbu Shuang was in a good mood as he took out 6 kilograms of origin stones and placed it on the shelf beside him. The origin stone and the scarlet rod that he had taken out disappeared without a trace. Walking out of the weapon pavilion, Dongbu Shuang was fully equipped with transcendent items. Even the worst robe he was wearing was at the peak grade transcendent mortal tier, while the rest were at the Saint Tier low grade or even Saint Tier top grade. Compared to other transcendents of the same level, I'm definitely not at a disadvantage in terms of weapons. In fact, I might even have an advantage. Dongbu Shuang revealed a smile. Brother Dongbu, you seem to be in a good mood. Gong Liangyuan said. I've stayed in there for a while longer. I'm ashamed. Dongbu Shuang hurriedly said. Choosing a weapon is a must. What's 1 to 4 hours to us transcendents? Let's go and choose a secret technique. Gong Liangyuan said. Everyone remember to vote for me. Everyone gets one every day. Chapter 103. As the sky gradually darkened, many places within the Water Taoist faction were lit up. Within the Secret Arts Pavilion, Dongbu Shuang went straight to the third floor. The first floor contained low-rank secret arts, the second floor contained middle-rank secret arts, and the third floor contained high-rank secret arts and transcendent secret arts. Although the legend said that there were better god-tier secret arts, only the Temple of the Earth God, Bloodshed Tavern, and Demonic Faction had them. Secret arts are indeed important. Dongbu Shuang flipped through some of the secret arts and understood their importance. Do-Chi techniques only focused on cultivating Do-Chi. Secret arts, on the other hand, focused on the usage of Do-Chi. Just like a piece of paper, if it was rolled up and used as a rope, It would only be able to lift a few gene-heavy objects. Any heavier and the paper would break. But if the paper was cut into hundreds of pieces and tied together like a braid, it would be able to lift tens of gene or even hundreds of gene. The same materials but different combinations could have completely different levels of endurance. Secret arts allow the exquisite combination of Do Qi. Dongbu Shuang picked up a book on secret arts and looked at the introduction. Some secret arts can greatly increase the effectiveness of Do Qi during defense. Some can greatly increase one's attack power. Some can move more flexibly, consuming the same amount of Do Qi, but with the exquisite combination of Do Qi, one's attack power will greatly increase. Transcendents could train in multiple secret arts at the same time. They could switch between them during battle. Looking at the various top-grade secret arts, Dongbu Shuang felt envious. It's getting late. Dongbu Shuang looked at the sky. Although there were many places in the Water Taoist faction that were still lit up, he estimated that it was already late at night. He was too engrossed in reading the introductions of the secret arts. Unlike weapons that could be casually played with, looking at the introductions of the secret arts, unknowingly time passed. Right, the vice head mentioned the innermost bookshelf on the third floor. Dongbu Shuang quickly walked to the innermost bookshelf and started searching. Previously, the vice head could tell that I had awakened the primordial bloodline with a single glance and asked me to search for it. Could it be related to the primordial bloodline? Dongbu Shuang was taken aback. He picked up a golden leaf book called Radiant Scroll and read the introduction in it. It's a manual for body cultivation? I didn't expect the Water Taoist faction to have a body training technique. Dongbu Shuang continued to look through the books carefully. Very quickly, he found another book on the same shelf, which also cultivated the body, Devil Dragon Art. The Scroll of Light and the Magic Dragon Art were actually sent back by the founder of the Water Taoist faction, the Water Sovereign. Dongbu Shuang looked at the introduction with admiration. The Water Emperor was the founder of the Water Taoist Temple. He was an ancestor of the Xia people who ascended to godhood over 8 million years ago. After becoming a god and entering the god world, he still remembered his hometown. He thought of a way to send back some Qi secret arts and body cultivation methods. Actually, many supreme secret techniques were sent back by the ancestors of the Xia people from the immortal realm. The Transcendents could not create such powerful secret techniques. As for god-tier secret techniques, throughout the history of the Xia people, there were so many ancestors who entered the god world, but none of them had ever sent back a god-tier secret technique. The Temple of the Earth God, Bloodshed Tavern, and demonic faction all had terrifying existences behind them. Only then would they have god-tier secret techniques. It's actually a body cultivation method. Dongbu Shuang was very excited. Compared to Qi secret arts, body cultivation methods were few and far between. Under the heavens, the most famous body cultivation methods were the demonic faction and the Temple of the Earth God. Maybe my hope for the second awakening of my primordial bloodline lies in these methods. Dongbu Shuang flipped through the two manuals. The second awakening of the primordial bloodline was extremely difficult. There were two ways to awaken it. The first was the body cultivation method. By absorbing the energy of the heavens and earth, one's body would become stronger and stronger. The chances of the second awakening would also increase. According to the records of the Xia people, as long as one awakened the primordial bloodline, when their body reached the peak of the saint stage, they would definitely be able to undergo the second awakening. Of course, once one's body reached the middle stage of the saint stage, the chances of an awakening would be very high. The second method depended on luck. Perhaps during a life and death battle, one would suddenly undergo the second awakening. There were two methods. To rely on luck to undergo the second awakening, the chances were too low. In the countless years of the Xia people's history, not a single one had ever done so. On the contrary, the demonic beast clan had such a lucky one. Relying on luck is not reliable. It's still better to cultivate the body cultivation method. Dongbu Shuang thought to himself. There was a huge difference between body cultivation and qi cultivation. When one's body improved, the amount of energy required for each breakthrough would increase exponentially. It was much more than the amount of energy required for qi cultivation. The moment a primordial bloodline awakener stepped into the transcendent realm, their body would reach the middle stage of the sky realm. From the middle stage to the peak stage of the sky realm, it would require 1,000 kilograms of origin stones. This was even more than the amount of chi cultivation from the initial stage of the sky realm to the initial stage of the saint stage. Just like this time when Dongbu Shuiying was invited by the Water Taoist faction, they only gave him 600 kilograms of origin stones. From the peak stage of the sky realm to the initial stage of the saint stage, it would require 50,000 kilograms of origin stones. It was even more than the amount of origin stones required for chi cultivation to step into the demigod realm. From the middle stage of the saint realm, it would require around 2 million kilograms of origin stones. It was a number that would cause even demigods to tremble. Most demigods would not be able to gather so many origin stones in their entire lives. From the middle stage of the saint realm to the peak stage, that was an unimaginable amount. In the words of the deity realm, even if all the origin stones in the material world were dug out, it would not be enough. Thus, when one's body evolves to the peak stage of the saint realm, one's primordial bloodline will definitely undergo the second awakening, was a beautiful wish. The stronger the body, the higher the chances of a second awakening. I have quite a lot of origin stones now. Taking out 500 kilograms of origin stones to raise my body to the peak stage of the sky realm is worth it. Dongbu Shuiying thought to himself. In the future, when his strength increases and he has more origin stones, he will take out 50,000 kilograms of origin stones to raise his body to the primary stage of the saint realm. At that time, the chances of an awakening would be even higher. As for the middle stage of the saint realm, that was too far away. Radiant Scroll and Magic Dragon Technique. Which one should I choose? Dongbu Shuiying looked at the two body cultivation methods in front of him. Chi secret techniques could be cultivated in many different ways. But body cultivation was completely different. Every body cultivation method would come with a secret technique, and one could only cultivate one secret technique. Magic Dragon Technique came with the secret technique Magic Dragon Strength. Magic Dragon Strength was a secret technique that could change the most minute structure of muscles and bones. Just like mortals. Similarly weak mortals, some were born with great speed, while others were born with great strength. This was the natural difference between muscles and bones. They were all level 6 demonic beasts, but some were extremely fast while others were extremely strong. Magic Dragon Strength was a secret technique developed from dissecting a powerful magic dragon's body in the deity realm. It was the most compatible with Magic Dragon Technique. It could increase the toughness of muscles and bones, and the explosive power would also be stronger. Magic Dragon Strength secret technique was divided into 5 layers. The first layer could increase one's strength by 20%. Normal transcendents would be able to understand it after some training. The second layer could increase one's strength by 50%. The requirement for one's comprehension was relatively high. The third layer could double one's strength. It was rare to cultivate to this step. Even among the Saint Realm experts, there were only a few who could cultivate it. The fourth layer could triple one's strength. Demigods who cultivated this body technique would usually only reach the fourth layer of the Magic Dragon Strength. The fifth layer could increase one's strength by 6 times. Large success. It was extremely difficult. This secret technique is really powerful. Dongbu Shuiying looked at it with longing. A secret technique at the large success level could increase one's strength by 6 times. And this is only considered a transcendent secret technique. What did 6 times the strength mean? Even with the power bloodline activated, one's physical strength would only double. But the Magic Dragon Strength was an evolution of the body's minute structure. Using physical strength normally, one's strength could increase by 6 times. How miraculous was that? Of course, Dongbu Shuiying was only a newly advanced transcendent. It was already not bad for him to be able to master this secret technique Magic Dragon Strength. Magic Dragon Technique was paired with the secret technique Magic Dragon Strength. After cultivating, one's strength would increase the most. Radiant Scroll was paired with Radiant Glass Body. After cultivating, one's speed would increase. The increase in speed would also be very terrifying. One must know that experts with the primordial bloodline had a very high recovery rate. As they cultivated, their bodies would get closer to the undying body or even become undying. This was also the reason why many demigods were still willing to cultivate the body technique, even though they knew that the chances of a second bloodline awakening was very slim. There were even transcendents who had not awakened their primordial bloodline but still tried to cultivate it. I'll choose the magic dragon technique. Dongwu Shuang thought for a while and made his decision. The reason why he chose the magic dragon technique was because the secret technique magic dragon strength contained many profound mysteries related to fire. The radiant glass body contained the profound mysteries of light. Dongwu Shuang had already comprehended the profound mysteries of fire and water. Naturally, he would choose the one that was suitable for him. Secondly, it was because it could increase one's strength. It was also more suitable for him to use it together with his innate talent, the power burst. Thirdly, it was because his primordial bloodline was the power bloodline. If he chose the path of power, his chances of awakening the second time would be higher. Senior Dragon, Senior Sparrow, I have already made my choice. I will only choose the magic dragon technique. Dongwu Shuang said. Not choosing the battle chi secret technique? Senior Dragon's deep voice sounded. Not for the time being. Dongwu Shuang smiled. The magic dragon technique could be exchanged in 2 parts. However, since he had the chance to choose once for free, Dongwu Shuang naturally wanted to get the whole book. As for the battle chi secret technique, right now, his battle chi was only at the sky initial phase. Even if he were to study the secret technique, it would not be able to compare to his physical strength in a short period of time. After all, his energy was limited. It would not be too late to cultivate the secret technique after his battle chi cultivation caught up to his physical strength. After all, the secret technique was easier to cultivate the higher one's realm was. Everything is done. Battle chi secret technique, weapon secret technique, everything is in my hands. Dongwu Shuang walked out of the secret technique pavilion. The sky was still dark and there was a crescent moon in the sky. It is time to go to the infernal realm. All newly advanced transcendents had to go to the infernal realm as soon as possible. Chapter 104. That is the gate of the world, which leads to the Xia capital of the infernal realm. Gong Liangyuan said. At the top of an icy mountain within the Water Taoist faction, there was a gate that was emitting ripples in the air. Come, let us enter. Yes. Dongwu Shuang was also filled with anticipation. He knew what was in the infernal realm, and was naturally filled with anticipation. Hoo-hoo. The two of them flew side by side into the gate of the world. The moment they passed through, they felt as though their bodies were submerged in water. The feeling of stagnation only lasted for a moment, and with a piu sound, they arrived at the other end of the gate of the world. This Dongwu Shuang looked on in shock. At this moment, he was standing beside the gate of the world on a tall mountain. Although it was night time, the moonlight shone down on this world. In front of him was a majestic and domineering city. Within the city, there were 9 main roads that extended outwards, as though they were 9 mystical dragons. Beside the roads, there were mansions of various sizes, arranged in picturesque disorder. In the center of the entire city there was a majestic palace. The palace was constantly emitting an endless amount of power, with a misty fiery glow. In the dark of the night, this palace was the most dazzling. Xia capital, Dongwu Shuang muttered. Yes, this is the Xia capital. It is the true capital of the entire Xia people. Gong Liangyuan's eyes were filled with passion. Over the generations, we the Xia people have met with many dangers. For example, the birth of a deity from the Beast clan, the invasion of the demons, and even the invasion of the alien races. But because of the Xia capital and the infernal realm, we, the Xia people, have always been able to prosper. Gong Liangyuan pointed to the majestic palace that was emitting a misty fiery glow. The palace in the center of the capital is the Infernal Palace. The reason why it is named Infernal Palace is because it has the meaning of passing on the torch. How many times has the material world outside turned into ruins? The mortals were almost wiped out, and the vitality of the Xia people was greatly damaged. But even if we are temporarily defeated, we still have the infernal realm. There are billions of mortals living in the infernal realm. Furthermore, the Xia capital has left behind almost all of the important inheritances of the Xia people. When the war is unwinnable, the transcendents will retreat to the infernal realm. Gong Liangyuan said, "We will wait for the right time to reclaim our world." Dongwu Shuang nodded. The power of a god transcended all extraordinary powers. When the magical beast clan gave birth to a divine spirit, the entire Xia people could not resist at all. The 6 great transcendent organizations did not hesitate to move their headquarters into the infernal world. He had to try his best to preserve his vitality. The infernal world was a large transcendent world. Deities could not enter it. In the beginning, the demonic beast race wantonly destroyed, almost slaughtering all the mortals in the world. Magical beasts multiplied and covered almost all the land and oceans. But in the end, the gods were expelled from the world. The Xia people would kill their way back. The Xia people had a deeper foundation. In a situation where there were no deities, they could completely crush the magical beast clan. The enmity between both sides grew deeper and deeper. When the Xia people gave birth to a divine spirit, they would often slaughter the magical beast clan. Occasionally, both sides would negotiate. For example, when the humans were at a disadvantage, they would try to move as many mortals as possible into the infernal realm. The magical beast clan, the demons of the dark abyss, the races of the other worlds. Gong Liang Yuan said, "There are many dangers, but we built the infernal realm to be impregnable, allowing us to hold on until now." Many of the laws of the Xia people were set by the Xia capital. In the imperial city of the outside world, it was just for show. The Dragon Mountain Manor, the Empire's army, etc. were all directly controlled by the Xia capital. Otherwise, why would the Empire's army have so many transcendents? Dongbua Shuiying and Gong Liang Yuan flew side by side. This Xia capital had been built and perfected over the years. Many terrifying arrays were stacked on top of each other. In terms of stability, it was countless times stronger than the array beneath the Black Wind Abyss. One had to know that this place had experienced the invasion of all sorts of demigods from other races. Those demigods who dared to invade this place were all armed with powerful deity weapons. However, the Xia people had been here for a long time. No matter who dared to invade this place, the only ending for them was defeat and escape. The Xia capital is a place where many legend rankers train. Gong Liang Yuan pointed to the countless mansions below. There are also many transcendents. Practically all the Sky Realm transcendents are here. Even saints and demigods have mansions here. Occasionally, they would come to the Xia capital. Then why are there still the headquarters of the 6 great transcendent organizations in the outside world? Dongbua Shuiying was puzzled. This Xia capital could become a gathering place for all the transcendents. It's to protect the mortal world, Gong Liang Yuan said. The mortal world outside is the most stable and perfect. It can nurture countless mortals and is the foundation of the Xia people. It is also the place where the ancestors of the Xia people lived. The headquarters of the 6 great transcendent organizations oversee the world. The moment they discover the demons of the dark abyss, the races of the other planes, etc., they must be exterminated immediately. Understood. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. The infernal world was much safer. The mortal world was very safe when there were no disturbances. However, the moment there was a huge disturbance, it would be very terrifying. The historical records of the invasion of the dark abyss had caused incomparably terrifying destruction and destruction. There had to be transcendents standing guard at all times, ready to respond at any time. So, the two of them flew. Very quickly, under Gong Liang Yuan's lead, they landed in front of one of the many mansions. The door of the mansion was already opened. Guards stood at the entrance, while rows of servants and maids stood inside. These servants and maids had already been waiting for almost a day. "This is your future master, Master Dongbua," Gong Liang Yuan said directly. "Greetings, Master." Over 1,000 people knelt down in an orderly manner. They were incomparably respectful. "This is..." Dongbua Shuiying was surprised. "This is your mansion, Dongbua." Gong Liang Yuan laughed. "If you are not satisfied, you can change to another mansion. However, I guess you should be very satisfied. The mansions of the other 9 transcendents in the Tranquil Sun Province are all around your mansion." Dongbua Shuiying looked at his surroundings in surprise. "All around? Look, that mansion belongs to Elder Chongfeng Qiu Qibai. The mansion next to it belongs to Elder Devil Blade, Peng Shan," Gong Liang Yuan introduced. "In order to welcome you, the 9 transcendents of the Tranquil Sun Province are currently in the Xia capital." "Aha!" Dongbua Shuiying was moved. The 9 transcendents were all here, but he had stayed at home for a month. He felt ashamed. However, he could feel that the transcendents of the tranquil Sun province were very united. As for the guards, maids and maids in your mansion, ha ha ha, every mansion has them. Even the mansion of a legend ranker has over 100 servants. After all, they are here for life and death training. Naturally, there are servants to take care of the trivial matters. Gong Liang Yuan said. Do they get paid? Dongbo Shuiying was once a lord. He immediately asked. Ha! When Gong Liang Yuan heard Dongbo Shuiying ask this, he could not help but laugh. Don't worry, they are all paid by the infernal palace. Actually, countless mortals are willing to serve the transcendents. The salary is secondary. The more important thing is the opportunity to learn spells and obtain powerful douqi techniques. High-grade douqi techniques and even top-grade douqi techniques are all possible. Dongbo Shuiying blinked his eyes. His 3-stage flame technique was only a middle-grade technique. Alright, you can go in and rest. My mission is considered complete after sending you here. Gong Liang Yuan said. This time I have troubled Elder Gong Liang. Elder Gong Liang, do you want to come in and have a seat? Dongbo Shuiying said. Gong Liang Yuan said, tomorrow Elder Changfeng and the rest of the Tranquil Sun Province will definitely welcome you. The sky is already bright. You should take a good rest. You still have a lot of things to do. Dongbo Shuiying was startled. He nodded his head and did not insist. He really had a lot of things to do. He would have to deal with some of his transcendents. Especially for the upcoming transcendent battle of life and death, he had to make preparations. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.